Welcome back, everybody.
Oh.
As we left off last week, we had made our way into the faraway city of Promise on the Isle of Hermea, far, far out into the steaming sea, off the coast of Avestan entirely. It is not a coastal island. It's not near any landmass. As a matter of fact, from the shores of Hermea, you can see nothing but water on the horizon in all directions. This is the peak of some mountain ridge beneath the ocean, and the only part of it quite high enough to get up here.
Water without, disappointment within. Hermea.
Rosine's not having a great time. But
This place sucks.
I want to go home. I hate it here. No, it's perfect. We did leave off at a bit of an interesting note after having been shown through the city, escorted to the beggar's quarter for our accommodations, and then assigned our legally mandated tour guide that we are not to leave the beggar's quarter without.
It's like North Korea run by a dragon. It's really what it is.
The Promise Tourist Board really needs to hire you for their byline.
Really selling it, yeah.
I want to
Water without, misery within, all these things is great.
It's like North Korea with dragons, all great selling points, I'm sure, that would really help them get their economy moving.
I don't think they need that. They don't really have an economy, do they?
Just like North Korea.
I'm about to just switch seats here. I'm going to go sit on his side of the table. Hey, an empty seat.
Have you wanted a great vacation spot? Go somewhere else.
Anywhere but here. Oh, God. But at the end of our adventures last week, we had been following along with the great graduation day parade, going on the magically enhanced causeways above the city, these massive highways 80 feet across that kind of spiderweb throughout all of Promise's walls and districts, and ended up in a park on the southern half of the city. We were watching a very impressive troupe of halfling acrobats perform when the group of you were approached by a guard. This lady had introduced herself as Lanaya Discor, a lieutenant in the Promise Guard, and had asked the group of you to come along with her. And as you looked around, you noticed another 3 guards near the edge of the crowd looking pretty intently your direction. Now, while you're time traveling throughout Promise here, groups of guards are not even really something you've seen much of. Pairs, perhaps, but even on the causeway of the main parade promenade that stretched from the edge of the city all the way to the Golden Citadel at its center, there were 6 guards total patrolling that entire road. 3 guards on the edge here all looking at you is about the biggest concentration of guards you've seen in the whole city so far.
Well, when your entire populace has to swear a magical oath to cause no trouble, you don't really need them.
Well, you do for the people with the visitor spins sometimes, maybe. But that's not all. As we were figuring out what to do here as she approached, Kaladar was whisked away in a wad of strange webbing. And that was where we cut last week's session. Before we come into this one, I want to, as always, briefly thank our sponsors here. We have Arc & Forge, a great piece of map-making software, and also a virtual tabletop for a hybrid setup like we have here. I've got literally just a face-up monitor that we play on so we can have all the cool dynamic lighting and the awesome map art that you can't really get with a dry erase marker on a grid. I mean, some of you probably can, people who have literally any artistic talents, but good luck with dynamic lighting. I believe in you. Sirenscape, which will be providing all of the sound sets, the sound effects, and some of the music during today's adventures, as they do for many of them. It has been the biggest unexpected benefit to our show. It is a huge boost to the immersion, so much so that I, who hates having to set up more technology than necessary, went out of my way to set up speakers to make sure that you guys can hear it over there at the tables, because it really is super cool. our newest partner with Eldritch Foundry, who has been supplying these fantastic miniatures for us. They somewhat recently, right around the start of this Age of Ashes epilogue, came out with a new set of like premium resin sculpts that are very nice, very detailed, and much more difficult to obliterate than some miniatures we have had in the past.
Yeah, they don't have that brittle quality that makes them explode at a moment's notice.
You breathe on them slightly too hard, and then like arrow tips go flying.
They vanish into another dimension.
But it's not that really soft, like wobbly. Every sword you ever get is like a curved banana kind of thing. You know you've all seen them. You know what I'm talking about. And flipping from that, our oldest partner with Norse Foundry, who has provided the dice trays. Fun fact, the dice trays that you see on our show, this is just an interesting trivia bit, is not a dice tray from Norse Foundry, technically. They are lids. These are the lids to the dice trays. The dice trays are felt-lined and super neato. And they have rims around the edge for you to store all of your dice and everything, and they're really cool. We literally just use the lids because they have the Norse Foundry logo on them. But you can get the actual trays with a huge variety of cool things inscribed in them, and not just the Norse Foundry. Oh, here we go. Perfect. I can tilt this up a little bit. You can see into it. This is what the actual dice trays look like. They're so nice and fancy. Really neat little devices. We are literally rolling in the lids like a bunch of weird goblins.
There's divots in the lids.
And they still bounce out sometimes.
Well, it's because the lid doesn't have the felt lining. Ours, it's more bouncy because they're the like the leathery surface has got a lot more. What's the word?
Bouncy works.
Bouncy.
You sound like a toddler, but it works.
With bouncy.
Have more bounce.
But as we start off today, first thing is first. As we go around with our introductions and this pile of webbing around Kaladar Fades, we'll just start in the middle here, my friend. If you want to briefly introduce who you are, what we see, and we'll just go, whoever wants to jump in afterwards. We'll just totally popcorn this one.
So the webbing, a pair of very pale hands tear this webbing open and shed it down to the ground, and out steps a tall, lithe whisper elf, even longer ears than normal, set in with his armor and a silver faceplate that covers all the way down below the nose, and hair tied back into a very tight ponytail. And as he's coming through, he is affixing a visitor's pin
that Roshin surreptitiously slipped into his hands.
Affixing the visitor's pin, and takes in a deep breath, and it's humid. Very humid.
Meanwhile, I just tried to do a reflex save to steal Raz's hat to cover this Pharasma.
That's a thievery check. You got a thievery skills on there?
I do. I rolled a 27 in that case.
I'm pretty sure that probably is not going to be Raz's reflex DC or perception DC there.
Perception DC is a 38.
So she critically fails. Steal Raz's hat.
Try not. My hope was to be able to cover the Pharasma mask, but did not make it whatsoever.
What do you look like?
I am Valentina Corvala. I am a human. I have red hair that's just a little bit too unnatural, but you can't quite. Aren't gonna say anything about it.
Is that because
my
of its
arms?
color,
I got
or
arms,
because
and it's
of
the color. Yeah, I mean. That's true. Yeah, both.
It could be aggressively unnaturally red, and I think most people
at this
are not going to say
point, we might as well just lean into the fact that I have arms the size of tree trunks,
like a gorilla.
And I can bounce and run ahead of everybody. Bouncy, as some might say.
Bouncy is a great word. Today's word of the day is bouncy.
Let's see here. And so Roshin is, honestly, for one of the few times, not wearing full battle plate. Left that back at the hotel / hostel / prison. Yeah. She's actually just wearing a long-sleeved sort of tunic, a shirt, tunic, trouser setup. Still with some very heavy boots on. A black knife sheathed into her belt. It's a knife at this point. Whoa, it's a knife, Governor. Look at it. It's a knife.
You got a license for that knife?
Oh, God, you need one now. Although her fairly mundane outfit probably at odds with her fairly exotic appearance, pale skin, half of her hair is full, long and over, the other half is shaved with a scar running down her scalp, bright yellow eye, deep scarlet eye, with a pale skin to make all that coloring just kind of pop out, and she looks rather out of place at that. But for the most part, she's currently scowling at the approaching guards.
I did not consider the stealth advantage of a shifting rune, that it can just be a dagger most of the time, so it's not.
Well, not a normal shifting rune can't, but the one you gave me certainly.
I mean, a nail file? Do you have to have licenses to have weapons?
It's got to be a weapon of some sort. It's got to be a melee weapon, but he specifically
it has to be illegal to carry.
Yeah. Normally, it's stuck with, if it's two-handed, it has to stay two-handed, but.
This is an anything goes. It's got to be melee, and that's it.
Thank you,
Can't
Sal.
transform into a longbow, but that's pretty much the line. Finally,
I'm a rat.
you are a rat.
Long limbs, thin build, short hair, like a little kangaroo rat, which is my favorite type of rat. Got a big ol' hat. Got a nice flowy clothes that make me stand out very much so, with shreds of paper covering me, sticking out the vest, sticking out the arms. I got a little wrist thing with more paper in it. Hat, paper inside the hat, paper around the hat.
Looks like a walking library trash can.
I'm the discarded notes of any author ever.
Library trash can.
Not even the trash can.
Not
just the
even
floor.
discarded, really.
Discarded? I'm pretty sure they came directly from perfectly mint conditioned
The book
books.
was discarded.
And that it was unattended.
As soon as he got his hands on it, it was now classified as discarded.
My name is Rats.
Doesn't that make you categorically a trash can if it becomes discarded?
No,
when you
because
have
I'm
it?
using it. One man's trash is another man's treasure. I'm a treasure trove.
He thought about it.
There you
Just
go.
now.
High optimism. I like it.
Please
But-
don't touch the hat.
As Valentine is trying to snatch at the hat here, Noshine is just scowling, Esphus affixing this pen that she had quickly palmed over to you, to your lapel here. The guard standing before you looks no different than any of the rest of the guards you've seen in Promise so far. Standing tall in bright, gilded steel full plate. Most of the armor polished to, all the armor polished to a fine shine, most of it just bare steel with gilded pauldrons, accent pieces on the elbows, across the waistline. The helm itself, not even the style that would have a movable visor so much as just a singular massive piece of metal obscuring near all of each of the guards' facial features. Even in the bright light of the afternoon out here in the park, you can just barely see the subtle green glint of her eyes through these two holes around the visage of a golden dragon that is sculpted down between the two of them, its crested ridge running back across the top of the helmet. The guard in front of you, like all the rest of them, has a white-faced kite shield painted across with another spiraling emblem of this golden dragon. Very high on artistic liberty. As much as all the dragons that generally live within Avestan that you would have met, it's almost certainly what Menkare would be, these kind of traditional Western, larger, stocky dragons. But the ones that are painted on all the emblems and iconography of Promise, including their shields here, is almost more of the Chinese dragon. The very long, twisting, coiled body, even accented with the pair of wings being halfway down at the top of this first loop here, giving it a very, very different look to what you, who now all have a great amount of draconic experience, would think of when you see a dragon. Rez, Mr. T1976 would like to throw you a bless, so take that skull out there. Get the happy die.
I'm happy.
You have some support.
Everything is great. Everything is good again.
Now she sees Esphus claw out. Lieutenant Discor looks over and sort of cocks her head a bit.
Go on.
Well, I'm not really sure where. You're not the same person.
Weren't the
I'm-
questions supposed to happen down at the guardhouse or something?
I didn't expect to have the questions cropping up as to who it was I was inviting to follow.
He
But
does have a visitor's pin, though.
he does indeed. You had an extra one. So I suppose this is a
Planned
situation that
event.
was accounted for.
Of course it is. Everything is accounted for here.
And then she looks around again. Where's Miss Resme?
Where is Resume?
Those of you who have been not the first time seeing this transition here, possibly not fighting for your hat, and certainly Roshin would have heard the quick incantation of a disappearance, as Miss Resme would have decided that the best way to handle this is, maybe to not get committed to following with whatever it is happening here.
Well, surely Miss Resme wouldn't be here if she wasn't supposed to be. Certainly we were informed that you can't have people going out in different directions, so perhaps she stayed behind. That would be a reasonable assumption, I would think.
Well, I'm willing to forego this strange attempt to hand wave her absence, as she was certainly here when I approached. But, again, the group of you are not under arrest. Grigorovic, if you could, perhaps, before you depart, maybe locate Miss Resme and ensure that she has a proper escort to help her find a way back to the Beggar's Quarter, if she happens to have wandered off. And he just kind of nods, of course. And with that, he would nod to the group of you. If you need me after, you'll still be able to call for me in the lobby of your lodgings. Just ask Miss Nadia. I will be there within minutes. Pleasant evening.
Bye-bye.
And Grigorovic would take his lead. Or his leave. So, if you would. And sort of motions over towards the edge of the crowd where the other 3 guards are.
I am real, yes.
This is a really, really creepy way to make an entrance. Spiderwebs?
Is this the first time you've seen it, has it?
Oh, first time I've seen it in
We
person.
can walk and talk.
Yes.
We
Yeah.
have some distance to cover.
Oh, it's actually possible. That's right.
That is a thing we can do, yes. Yo,
Very well, lead on.
you smell like death.
Grave Earth, specifically.
Death. Hi, I'm Raz.
And he looks down at the hand and just... Esvasthar.
SSR, that's an easy name to remember. Esvis, that's like 5 letters. Syllables?
I'll defer to your judgment on this one, Raz. You certainly have enough of them gathered about all over your person.
You must be the one that was made mention of with the school.
Yes. I had a school in Breach Hill.
It's still there.
Mostly.
Yeah, you put the wall of force on top of it next time the fire rains from the sky.
I didn't have time. I was in the school, and the fire hit the top of the school before I can get out of the school to put the wall of force above the school.
Oh, lack of effort, Raz.
A lack of speed.
See? Taking responsibility. I'm proud of you.
It's being rebuilt, but yes, teaching all the kids how to read and write, and Mr. Buford. He's also learning how to read and write. That's a very tough task.
And what god do you believe in that can perform such miracles?
I don't believe in a god. I just believe in myself. Well, I believe in gods. Gods are real. I believe in myself. I don't worship a god. I don't ask for a god for help. I ask myself for help. And maturity sometimes.
Yeah, maybe let's leave the God conversation out of it for the moment. We are
We're
in
not
promise,
proselytizing.
after all.
I'm certain that these fine specimens of Promise's finest aren't going to wilt away at the simple theological discussion that's happening, especially when they're being disavowed. Certainly that would make them feel better at the very least.
Well, there's certainly no problem with theological discourse in the city. Discussion of gods is an important part of education, after all. Simply open worship, presentation of holy symbols, and the like that's banned.
Makes the children feel uncomfortable, you see.
Want some candy? It's taffy. Got it from the parade.
I'd rather not.
I find rather strangely, given the makeup of your group, that Sir Raz here seems to have the most straight of it. His view is that shared by Menkara and the Council of Enlightenment, and most that you'll find within Promise. There is no need to parlay or beg to some mysterious divine above for a pittance of their power. That power can be unlocked within any of us.
Oh, I don't necessarily think that way. It's just there's no real god that can help me do what I want to do. So I just do what I want to do. And
So
of course,
there'll be many that would claim they could.
maybe. What was it? Nethys. But he's also two-faced. There's two sides to that one. He's a little tricky. I don't know much about gods anyways. I don't really research them. They're boring, kind of, mostly.
It's not admittedly much of my area of expertise. I don't know much more than a surface level understanding of most of the major pantheon worship within Aveston. Much that was included in our core education.
Well, certainly what I know about Aradin is that his faith was certainly all about building humanity up so it could stand on its own, straddle the world, and make the entirety of Golarion a spectacularly wonderful place to live. So, Mankari got part of it right, at least.
I believe that Menkare likes to feel he carries on the tradition of Erodin, even though he may have been lost. That perhaps if this city of promise had been erected a few hundred years earlier, it may have been properly dedicated to him. But
Oh, come now. You can
Conjecture,
certainly
Nicole.
think of that, I suppose, but he's doing the opposite if you think about it. He's grabbing the greatest minds that he possibly can, the greatest talents, and he's locking them away on an island far away. How can you benefit the world out here?
She sort of turns back to you as you're walking, very much up on the causeway by this point. That's a strange perspective to take, but I suppose one that would be reasonable for an outsider. No, he's simply protecting them, all of us, shielding us from the distractions and the horrors of the outside world, ensuring that those with the greatest minds, the greatest potential, and the strongest wills have the opportunity to flourish, to be everything they could, to become pinnacles of humanity, champions in Erodin's image.
But Erodin wanted humanity to be champions so that they could improve things, not so that just for their own sake. A champion or a brilliant mind that's locked away and is never able to benefit the world at all might as well not exist.
I take it you haven't been in Promise very long, have you?
I think you have exactly my records at how long I've been here.
A wise observation. Indeed, but a surprising number of innovations you would find throughout the rest of the world, throughout the inner seas, actually originated here. For instance, in looking at the group of you, her eyes kind of run across the weapons that Esvis and, well, I guess really just Esvis, your bow really
Yeah.
is what her eyes land on. You might be interested to learn that much of the modern design of a repeating crossbow was developed here. It was invented within the last couple of decades in living memory.
A contraption. Interesting. So you have collected the greatest of minds here for their protection and for their advancements to eventually come out into the world. Am I to understand this?
It's not I wouldn't even say he's even saying that much. He's saying that certain tiny gems of their brilliance have leaked their way out of Promise and are currently existing in the world. That's what he's saying. And I can't exactly fault his reasoning.
Much of the current know-how of smithing with adamantine metal was developed here as well. It's near impossible to work in a traditional manner.
I know Kavlar doesn't exist anymore, but the dwarves there certainly seemed quite skilled at the craft. Perhaps you're saying they learned it from you?
It's not impossible. That's knowledge that was created some time ago. That's certainly before my time here in Promise. But some of the talented minds in the Artisans District developed ways to mold adamantine, to use it to be able to create proper edge on it. You can't grind it traditionally.
Certainly not.
It's near impossible. It's far too hard for that. It can't be worked with steel tools, and heat doesn't make it any more malleable. Perhaps the dwarves had their own ways, but well, we have plenty who have studied those methods here, and all of them have absconded for, well, what has been found here in Promise.
Fascinating.
So you have a lot of visitors who come to serve as apprentices? Or does it mean that your publishing industry is booming?
Well, and she would motion at this point as you're coming around towards the Golden Citadel, down towards the port district of the south end of the city. There would visibly be a side of the city on the southeast that's completely open to the water. And it would be a very interesting little port, honestly. Very strange. It would boast only a handful of piers, maybe only 3 or 4 that are large enough to support a full-sized ship. But a dozen ships just moored throughout the harbor around them. There are a greater number of smaller docks that kind of extend out this rounded circular district, but still not nearly enough space for the number of ships, near all boasting white and gold sails that are moored up in the harbor. We do trade. That's how much of our discoveries that have made from here make their way back out into the outside world. Due to the contract of citizenship, any who do choose to leave Promise typically aren't able to share what developments or secrets we have here directly, those that have not been sent out. But knowledge is as valuable commodity as any other. In fact, perhaps more so. So, yes, I suppose our publishing industry, as you put it, is doing quite well.
Fair enough, I suppose. I'm glad that you deem to go and at least help the outside world slightly, even if it is just to trade.
I feel you misjudge Menkare's intentions, Roshin. This City of Promise, this bastion, is to ensure that the best of humanity can become all that they are meant to be.
I've heard the catchphrases.
It's not meant to hoard them or to hide their discoveries or their secrets from the rest of the world. Truly, the goal is for, well, such a life to be available anywhere that man lives.
Did you just say that people are not allowed to share their knowledge?
It's because it's difficult. Outside our walls of Promise, I come from Taldor, things don't work the same. And I'm sure you know that. You have bandits. You have defecting soldiers. You have organized crime. You have illegal militias. You have monsters. You have demons and devils and all sorts of things that, for instance, this knowledge of working adamantine, if it was simple enough and commonly available, would that be a benefit to all of mankind beyond these walls or a detriment? Would highwaymen being armed with adamantine longswords or adamant-tipped arrows be worth the exchange?
Or repeating crossbows.
Repeating crossbows themselves, they're a peasant's tool. The crossbow allows those who are untrained and undisciplined to be able to defend themselves.
Of course. No, I'm well aware of them. I suppose simply you seem to be talking yourself in a bit of circles is what I see. You're saying that, we have to be very careful with what we let out, but the things that we do let out are just these minor little technologies which can help a few people, but not really upset the balance too much. But if truly the goal was to have it so that anyone could have this sort of utopian lifestyle here, you'd have to grow past the wings of Menkare if you're going to bring this out into the world, if you're going to at some point perhaps establish a colony that's run as well as this place is.
Perhaps.
After all, it's Menkare's strength and isolation that keep you all safe here.
It's almost certainly unwise of me to try to speak for whatever grand designs he has. I am not a tour guide, after all. I've committed my life to one of simplicity as a guard. Martial talents were always that I took the most interest in, and I enjoy the tutelage and training that's available to me here in Promise, and being able to apply it should it ever be necessary to keep these people safe. But I am not certainly the most well-versed in, I suppose, the greater culture, or the cultures of the world beyond, even.
Certainly not, I suppose. And I certainly wouldn't want to hold the entire reputation of the city on what you happen to know. But it just seems that if you wanted something aside from what you say is what is wanted, the entire setup of the city just fits it a lot better, if you know what I'm getting at.
Valentina, you are an example of marrying spiritual and physical prowess, and it is not a secret that was kept from those who sought to discover it. Did your teachers hone you into a weapon that you've accepted as merely a practitioner of martial arts, or are you still Valentina through your own choices?
I mean, ultimately, when you are trying to learn the information that would create a problem in society, my masters at the very least had a vetting process to make sure that the knowledge didn't get where it didn't need to go, because there is a limit to how much can be taught without the assistance of experts. certainly. But I would say with Roshin's point the industry that you have of creating weapons is one that is very gratefully limited to here in Promise. But when I think of increasing harvest or any sort of medicinal advantages or advancements, it does seem a little strange that would not be made readily available, as some knowledge is more difficult to corrupt than others.
This is a surprisingly lofty discussion for outsiders. Admittedly, most that bear these visitors' badges don't have quite the head for, well, such esoteric and frankly, interesting discussion.
I'm sure the triad screened him out well for you.
I think it's more that we know each other well enough that we like to challenge each other in our own thought beliefs.
At this point,
we'll get bored otherwise.
You've done the whole of basically the parade route that you just came through backwards, and have gone back down the stairwell near the northwestern gate where you'd first come into Promise. And she has led you off the side of the main road to quite literally the first building, what would have been the very first building on your right as you came in through the gates. And as she approaches the door and pulls off a small ring of keys from her hip, unlocks the front door and opens it, and just sort of gestures in as the rest of you have been following with the other three guards just kind of around behind you.
A lock?
That was my thought.
This is the Northern Gatehouse. There's nothing in here that needs securing, but it's for matters of the guard and for the city's security. Should something happen, this is one of the places that Menkare deigns perhaps better sealed.
Fascinating.
But if you would.
Please, after you, Lieutenant.
And she kind of nods and slowly turns and steps through the door, putting the keys back on her hips. This is no trap. I know you've no reason to touch this, but this building is far from a prison. The lock is equally accessible from both sides, and as you can see from this latch in here, also a development of the city, you'd be able to unlock yourselves from inside. I would be unable to seal you within this building.
Certainly, Lieutenant. Let's just keep it hospitable then.
Of course. And I hope that you will find that this is certainly far more hospitable than the lodgings we had back in the Taldan Army. Still a guardhouse, after all. It's not the height of luxury, but make yourselves comfortable. And the inside of the room looks to be a main central chamber with two sort of elongated dining tables with a row of cushioned seats down either side. They're not elaborate or ornate, but they are much more fine than you would normally find like a guard's mess hall. You can see through a couple of open doorways on two sides of the room that they lead to what look like barracked lodgings with a few sets of cots. Another door with a couple of bars over its window that allows you to see through clearly into an armory of sorts. A series of small offices are on the other side.
Raz, you seem troubled.
Just a lot to take in, a lot to think about. Is the city really that bad? I mean, being mandated by a dragon doesn't sound very nice to me, but, no war, no famine, no bandits killing families, leaving children abandoned out in the middle of the desert, crying, having nightmares for 10 years later.
Raz, the bandits exist. They're just out there, across the ocean. They've just taken everyone and run away from it all.
If Menkare has his way, perhaps someday, not all 12 of Verodin's guises will still be necessary.
Well, there you go, Raz.
But then again,
Someday the dragon will take everyone over there and they'll make the whole world a better place.
no adversity comes no interesting stories, no interesting viewpoints, no need to progress.
Oh, I'm sure the Lieutenant has all sorts of interesting stories to talk about ever since she's been here.
And perhaps we'll find some time to share them. I will go fetch the guard captain, Miss Councilor Arumalo. I believe she should be wrapping up her business with the parade procession and should be here within a few minutes. And with that, she heads back out the front door with one of the other guards, leaving you inside with another pair of guards, two of the four, who just kind of stand near the door as you can hear it close and hear the lock redone behind them.
Hey, you. Do you have something to read?
Something to read?
Something to read? A book? A pamphlet?
I don't know if it'll be of much interest to you. It's more of a personal curiosity. And he heads over towards one of the barracks, or one of the little lodgings. Heads in, turns a corner, and you see him kneel down and hear him start rustling through a bag. And the other guard cocks his head. He's gonna bring you the brewing guide. Hope you're into ales.
Well, I'm in the reading, so
The first guard comes back with a pretty thick leather-bound book. This is at its heart, I suppose, a treatise on different methods and pros and cons of styles of distillation for various ales and meads. And the other guard kind of like tilts his head down towards you.
So are you learning how to brew your own ale? Is that what you're doing?
Oh, I have been. It's what spare time I have around the duty here. I spend a lot of it down in the fishery, working with some of the great minds down there in the heads to, well, hope to develop a particular flavor of my own that, well, isn't awful, frankly. Entirely a hobby. I'm not great at it. And as he hands it out to you, see it's got like 6 different tabs sticking out of the top that he's labeled different little sections of it. This is a little more on the technical end. A little less about, I suppose, bodies and flavors of different kinds of hops and bases, and a little more about the process itself. Like I said, don't know if it's proper interest in, but I find it fascinating.
So is being a guard a career choice that you made yourself?
Oh, yeah. I figured of all the things I could commit myself to here and promise, this seemed... What's the saying? If you do something you love, you never work a day in your life. It's bollocks is what it is. If you find work in something you love, you won't love nothing no more. And I didn't want to get too involved in the fishery. I didn't want that to be a career path for me and lose my luster for it. I'd rather keep it as a hobby, something I enjoy doing more. And this, well, it seemed a simple enough task. Minkari graciously enough offered it to me as a secondary. I was a veteran back in Galt. I served my time there, and bloody times they were.
Indeed so.
Speaking of, Galton?
It's good to see you, sir. Good to see you landed on your feet.
A great landing it was.
You did quite well for yourself. Congratulations. Hopefully you're better at brewing than my brother Parker. He tried a batch once. It was so awful. We called it Parker's punishment. He drank every drop too, just to prove it. Oh, it was awful.
I can't even laugh at that so much. And he kind of nudges the other guard, and the other guy kind of chuckles. I suppose I could tell him about Caleb's curse.
We should. Please, sit down. Let's talk of things that are light and make the soul life into the air.
you hear a rip.
Well, all right. So here's...
Just without looking, just swats Rat on the head.
This page is wrong. Everything in it's wrong.
It's wrong.
It's wrong. Like proportions, size, temperature, all that. Here, you want this page? He just pulls out another piece of paper, puts it in there. It's from an older manuscript, but from really good sources. It was converted from a dwarven recipe into an elvish recipe into a human recipe. Humans really took a hand to the elves. The elves really like the strength of the dwarves, but they had to change it around to fit their own palates. It's actually much more interesting that way.
Huh. For most of what I've seen of the dwarven techniques of brewing, I honestly don't truly know why they even bother with the distillation portion at all. It seems like as soon as they've let the stuff rot long enough to be considered alcohol, they're more than happy drinking it.
Well, they just want the buzz, that's all.
I don't
really hard
understand
being
the
a dwarf.
appeal of it. It's... Their wines are just like full mouthfuls of rotten fruit.
Mushrooms. They like mushrooms.
That
a lot.
they do. Mushrooms, and there's a name for it, but that algae that grows in those underground lakes.
Oh, yes. Yes.
Beneath High Helm.
I don't remember what it's called, no.
I can't think of it either, but never quite understood the taste of it myself. And after a few, you would easily... These guards have clearly interests. The first would be more than happy to go into as much as you want of these ales and these distillations. His passion for drink becoming immediately apparent. And if drawn into it, the other guard would pin it a bit further that actually he's always been one for leatherworking, not even for armor. He doesn't, just for interesting, almost like woven Celtic knots. He just really likes almost overly intricate designs, and would also fetch a couple out of his room. They put on the table to show you one that's like a full sphere of 3 kind of distinct panels, each of which is woven into a different pattern. It's difficult to follow any single line of this strap through across the face of it. And one, a work in progress that he was working on for his son, which was a little leather wooden toy. The one end of it that he had mostly together was a surprisingly detailed like head of a horse, and the end of that is just kind of like loose and unworked, as he hasn't finished down to what this is going to be. But at that point, you would hear the lock of the front door turn once again. And the door would open to reveal a pair of guards. One as unrecognizable as any other, very possibly the lieutenant. The height seems to match. But she would step in, followed by a second, who is done up in a bit of a different chest plate that would have a series of individual silvered ridges, almost like ranked military stripes across the front of it, and no helmet, leaving her face visible. Her dark hair clearly a little bit matted, from having been under a helmet for much of the day, and at this point kind of wide and loose braid, holding most of the bulk sort of drooped across her shoulders. She is not nearly the pale skin that Roisin, or even quite as white as Valentina. I don't know, how white is Valentina? I'm not sure where you're on that scale.
I've spent a lot of time outdoors, so I'm relatively like white person tanned.
That's fair. She looks less tanned and more just olive skinned, perhaps more Osirian or Kadiran. But she steps in with a wide smile on her face and immediately bows a just like traditional bow from the waist, pretty deeply towards the group of you, holding the pose for a moment before returning back up. I thank y'all for agreeing to meet with me. I know that there's no, I suppose, comfortable way to make contact, especially with the outsiders who are in an unfamiliar city with unfamiliar customs.
I find letters tend to work fairly well.
In times where there is no urgency, perhaps, but I don't know exactly why you have shown up here when you did, but I suspect it's quite the blessing for us that you're here at all. I fear that many factors may have caused things and promised to run foul, and your stay here might not be as pleasant as you may have hoped. But maybe, just maybe, if what I hear of the group of you is true, you may be able to help with some of those things. I fear that Minkari has been corrupted, and that his glorious endeavor must be stopped.
His endeavor meaning the
Looking
city
at the
of
other guards in the
Promise?
room, are they reacting to this?
The guards that are behind her, as soon as she came into the room, Lieutenant immediately closed and latched the door, and is standing in front of it. So even if another guard with a key were to approach, she is physically blocking the door. The other two guards are still to either side, and there appears to only be that one entrance to the building. They are all much more still now. The three of them kind of near the doorway, all not quite like at attention, but much more reserved than the jovial sorts you've just been discussing with a moment ago.
May I roll a perception check of some kind to maybe like try to glean insight into their
Absolutely.
behavior?
Sense motive is a perception check. Anyone who wants to throw one can throw one.
Okay. Ew. You know what? Yes, I will use a hero point for a reroll for this one.
Go for it.
There. With a 2 on the die, it definitely called for a
Oosh.
reroll.
Do better.
Do better.
Significantly better.
was it now?
That is a 10 on the die. So that will be a total of 41.
And I got a 37
The 41 and 37.
because it was 10 on the die.
As you look at her, as she's telling you this, she clearly looks like her face is grave. She clearly is saying this with a lot of weight. This is an incredibly serious matter to her. And with the 3 guards behind her, it is a somewhat intimidating front. But beyond that, her face doesn't really give away anything. If there's something else to be gleaned from her words or expression, it's beyond you. The old seems sincere.
So, when you say Minkare's ambitions, do you mean the city and promise entirely, or is there something more specific that you are concerned about?
Well, from what Lieutenant Discord tells me of your conversation on the way here, perhaps you will be more amenable to this than I had hoped. You may look at promise and see a near utopia here, but
Like, look at Roisin and see, like, Roisin.
so does she.
Hand right over to Rasheen.
This flat expression.
It is a place without freedom. It is a place without choice. It is a place without faith. The city citizens are well cared for, admittedly, but in a way that treats them like...
Livestock?
Exactly. Humans should not be kept as pets or bred for desirable qualities. They should not be kept from making their own choices. I've only recently developed these convictions for myself, admittedly. I spoke with a specialist Minkare had brought in a few years ago. He was an elven man from far, far from here, named Xerxes. But he had a view of this that was... I don't know. It's... resonated with me, I suppose.
Question. What have you heard about us? What kind of stories? What kind of tales? Nothing bad, right?
Well, a great amount about you, surprisingly. The files on you in the archives are quite extensive. You have an impressive and storied history behind you. Interestingly, you are Eswos, I believe?
I am.
Yours had you missing in action in the Monkey Expanse. Not the face I expected to see here.
Not missing. Dead.
That is a form of missing, actually.
You are returned then.
Seeing as it is shaky to speak about such ideologies.
We're talking treason here, Usvis. I think you can be free.
Returning
I mean,
from the beyond is not necessarily a holy feat, and beyond that I would hold nothing against you. There are simply potions to do the same, many of which brewed within these very walls.
before we speak completely freely, what responsibilities and requirements are placed upon you if you've taken the citizen's oath? I think that would help us determine with what freedom we can speak to you.
It's a wise question. Let me perhaps answer with a proper introduction. My name is Enizra Arumalo. I'm a member of the Council of Enlightenment, and I am the acting captain of the Guard of the City of Promise. I have not only taken the contract of citizenship, and am beholden to all of its tenets and clauses, but also a stricter version offered to the Council of Enlightenment members by Minkare personally. I am bound to act widely within the best interests of the City of Promise, and in the best interests of Minkare's ideals.
But not Minkari himself. Oh, That was a slip-up for a dictator.
I do not think that he ever imagined the distinction would be relevant. But
A true believer, then.
he was. I have no reason to believe that Promise was created for anything other than Menkari believing that this was the best for humanity. This was the best chance for people, for humans. He believes that humankind, and I mean humankind, and she looks down towards Rez and Esvis, is the best chance that the whole of Galarian has for a new era of prosperity. For peace and happiness and widespread advancements in technology and magic and culture. And he seeks to incubate that here, like you would a chicken at a farm.
On a draconic time scale, no less.
Indeed.
Well, it's rare for a true believer to survive so long. Usually, his less reputable counselors stab him in the back and try to seize power, but it's good to see that his vision has lasted so long. True believers are quite common where I come from.
I suppose after my long discussions with Xerxes, it was more clear to me why visitation to Promise is perhaps so regulated, why our interactions with visitors are so controlled, why there is only a hand-picked group of escorts and guides are allowed to spend any real amount of time with them.
Ideas are Menkari's greatest enemy.
Perhaps so. And I think at the moment they may be Promise's greatest danger. Not for the reasons that you would think or Menkari would, but for something entirely separate. Speak of the contract of citizenship, so you know of it. I assume this was explained to you when you received your visitor's pins.
We received a vague description, but nothing specific enough to know what is within and without your limits of activity or responsibilities to Menkari.
Its very restrictions are the reason that I hope you can help me. Part of the contract that I have undertaken is magical binding. It stops me from investigating or even accessing parts of the city, perhaps more than you would expect, being that I'm a member of the Council of Enlightenment, but the Council is a puppet. It is not, perhaps a bad word, it's not one that is pulled on strings by Menkari, but one that is more a show for the people. We keep the city running, we deal with trade and commerce, but we make little real choices, few more, perhaps even less, than the citizens we ostensibly see over. I cannot access many sections of the Golden Citadel, in particular the archives. I spoke briefly of this Xerxes, and he has disappeared.
You feel he may have made his way into the archives unnoticed?
I don't think he has made his way into the archives, but I fear whatever fate has befallen him may at least be recorded there.
Was this recent?
Quite.
How recent?
In a few weeks' time. A little, perhaps.
Do you know of the Xerxes' dealings with any other emissaries of Promise, perhaps with Etrix Trigal in the Triad?
And she is, seems distracted for a moment. By Erodin, it has been months. It's hard to feel the passage of time here, where every day feels the same. And I'm sorry. It's been the better part of a year. 7, maybe 8 months.
Is that so?
Is the disappearance of Xerxes the matter of urgency that you speak of, or is there additional urgent matters?
It is part of it. Xerxes and I we became friends. There's no official capacity. He was invited here as an expert for his knowledge. Menkari was interested in him. He did not have the simple visitor spins that you did. He was able to walk the city almost as a citizen, but unbound by the contract. He is a scholar from the Monkey Expanse, from far within. He is a member of a tribe that I'm sure is small enough to be of no significance, but we were friends, and it is a matter of some urgency to me, I suppose, as I had some feelings beyond that.
What was the tribe called?
The Equijai?
Ah,
I don't know anything about them. That's part of the other group.
Esvis. It's been a really long time. And it takes a minute. The first time she mentioned that, you're like, okay, that's not a super outlandish name. But the more you think about it, you have one of those, I feel like I have heard that before. And it has been a long time, both in and out of character for you. But it hits you with the Ekijai connection. Xerxes is who Nikita took over for. That was the previous Ekijai emissary. That was her mentor.
So they never would have met because he would have been
He would
like,
never have met Xerxes.
'Cause he
He's
left
only
and then
heard of
she-
Nikita speaking of him back when you were in the Monkey Expanse. But as she continues, at that point I believed wholly in Minkare's plan, and these feelings were not my place. My choice of mate, if I were to have one, was not for me. This was for Minkare to decide. But I suppose I made the mistake of assuming that Xerxes would understand, of course, this golden design of his. And he most certainly did not. He convinced me that this was madness, that this was insane to allow another to decide who I would dedicate myself to who I would fall in love with. It sounds like a children's tale, but that those feelings are real, and they are part of not just being a human, but being alive. And I promised him that when his work here for Minkare was done, he would find a way around the contract. He would find a way, some loophole or some way to dispel it or remove its enchantments, and he would take me back to Okriville with him, the Ekujai city in the jungle.
Are you saying that the citizen's oath prevents you from ever leaving Promise?
It does.
so much for colonizing the rest of the world.
Raz, I believe you may have some expertise on this.
And Asvis, I believe you may have a bless.
Uh-oh.
From Lucitios in the chat. Flip that over to the happy die instead of the sad skull.
Sad skull. It's a happy skull.
It's not a happy
It's
skull.
it's happy for chat.
It's happy for chat.
Yeah.
It's the chat good time skull.
I mean,
Very well then. So, enter the archives, find something about Xerxes. We can do that. We're accomplished enough at it, I suppose. It'll be good to actually have some sort of official sanction on this. It seems that you're not the only one who feels this way, given that you don't mind announcing it in the company of your subordinates here.
Well, Roshin, as much as that sounds straightforward enough, Raz.
I was just thinking about the enchantment cast by a gold dragon. What kind of enchantment binds you? What kind of ritual is that?
Lieutenant Discor, and these behind me, I fear, beyond you, for hopefully, may be the only friends that I can trust and promise. Maybe the only kind ears to this, well, as you said it, treason. I have been very careful with who I've spoken with. I have been very careful with who I've opened to, and I've made the decision, given your histories and your interactions with the Scarlet Triad, that perhaps you would understand that sometimes things need to be done. Your history is not unknown here. It is known to a select few, but
What interactions with the Scarlet Triad are you talking about?
killing them mostly.
Taking them apart piece by piece. That one.
I imagine what happened in Katapesh was also your doing.
The
heard you
Pact
guys-
Masters repressed it. Would have been very embarrassing for him. But enough know about
Roshin
it.
in really close and whisper to her. It's a private conversation. Don't listen. Close your ears.
I'll pick Raz up and hold him.
I owe you at least some trust, I suppose.
It's weird to me. Is it weird to you that she knows all about our exploits in the Scarlet Triad, but Miss Treagle didn't? She didn't have a clue.
It's true. It's fascinating, actually.
And almost as if on cue. As the captain of the guard, the security and safety of Promise is my main concern. And with the actions that you had taken abroad against the Scarlet Triad, you are persons of interest, I suppose, to Minkari and to the safety and security of the city as a whole. It is why it was interesting, very interesting, that you arrived with visitors' pins in a visit that was certainly not cleared by me.
That is interesting.
Does that mean that all of us are under that same level of scrutiny?
Oh, Heroes
By
of Breach.
association,
We
or
probably
is
should
it
have.
just-
We told you about all the trouble we got into. Don't you start trying to back out
Of the pair
now.
of you,
Oh, I'm
it
curious.
is-
I'm curious.
It is only Raz and Roshin here that I am familiar with. There were others beyond that.
See,
There was an Iroxi fellow named Trishik who seems to have worked his way into the criminal underworld of Katapesh with an incredible alacrity.
Who?
Criminal
The
Underworld. Trishik.
Who?
Such a stand-up fellow.
New
There's-
guildmaster of the Katapesh arena, Martian Emberbeard,
Yeah, it fits him nicely.
and say Resme Gladherman, an elven sorceress of some repute.
she's half human.
Mostly Elven. She'll tell you that. But
If she's half human, that's admittedly interesting. Our records seem to believe she is full of full elven blood.
She denies the human side of her,
She's
her
a
ancestry quite
Very
adamantly.
capable liar.
slander on our compatriots aside, Miss Resme simply did not accompany us when we were originally collected by your crew. She's likely back at the lodgings in the Beggar's Carter, but I feel that she would be most amenable to your request as well. True love is certainly something that would get her heart beating quickly.
I imagine that if the reports are even halfway true about what she is capable of, her magic is more than capable of giving the slip to Lieutenant Discord. Something that I do not in any way hold against you.
Suffice it to say, I think that Minkari's strange actions may have drawn some notice beyond just you. And perhaps others might not feel quite so comfortable or have even fewer friends than you do. And so aren't really willing to speak about it.
I'm not the first who has reached out to you.
No, you're not. I don't wish to break their confidence any further, but Promise has the best that humanity can offer, and Minkari's actions have apparently drawn a great deal of scrutiny and concern.
I wonder perhaps then if my caution is to the point of being detrimental. If I have been too safe. If there are others who have reached out to you, others within the city who would share a like-mindedness, more aid is certainly not unwelcome.
Indeed.
There's no such thing as being too safe.
I'd suggest you be cautious, of course, but too much caution leads to, well, isolation and what we have here.
Well, I do not fear for Xarxes simply because I care for him. In my investigations, attempting to discover where he had gone, and such disappearances are not wholly unheard of here. But I had always believed they were for good cause, that they were for the greater good, that enemies of state or dangers to the people of Promise, but
Ideas, my dear captain, the greatest threat to any dictatorship.
Xerxes was no simple scholar of elven magic. He had an expertise. He was extremely well versed in a very specific and very potent ritual, something called the Anima Invocation. It was apparently an ancient ritual that was once used to destroy a great evil.
Is that a fact now?
Sounds very important.
We'd probably actually, we might be needing it fairly soon.
And at that, you see her head like snaps to Roisin, and her face drops immediately as she's been kind of opening up to you guys to immediately a much more stony, blank expression. Indeed.
A terrible power is brewing at the heart of Breach Hill, our town where we came from. It crawls through and caused quite a bit of wreck. We managed to keep it under control, but it'll be back stronger than ever. Your Ekujai friends their ancestors were greatly involved in stealing it away last. That I understand. Resme would know more about it. But if there was a ritual that the Ekujai used to steal a great evil away, I bet you it'd be that one.
I was not able to learn much of specifics of this ritual, other than that it is a very potent weapon that requires the expenditure of great sacrifice.
Is that so? Well, we certainly don't have to. We certainly don't have to use it. We have to be very careful about it.
I do not know much of the details.
Could be.
The Ekujai spoke of great sacrifice, but in tales, according to Miss Resme, songs, embellishment is almost sure to follow. Weren't sure how much to trust them, to be honest with you.
You see why Minkari's interest in it concerns me.
No shortage of potent sacrifices here, and they can't even leave or say no.
So,
We won't let you be slaughtered. Don't worry about it.
I would like to believe that is far from what Minkari intends.
For the good of the world?
But for the greater good. If you are of like mind, I need you to infiltrate the archive below the Golden Citadel. The contract of citizenship prevents me from doing so. I need you to seek any information you can find regarding Minkari's actual plans for his glorious endeavor, or his great promise, and try to determine what happened to Xerxes. Now is the perfect time for this to happen. Well, Minkari is away, but he could return anytime. I do not know how long he'll be absent for.
There are a number of recent graduates who have not yet taken the oath.
Don't think they'd send the school children in after us, do you think?
I was going to ask more if you know of anyone who might be amenable to acting as guide or accompanying us.
It seems that in that department you have more connections than I. Most of Promised citizens truly believe in the cause. They believe they are doing good work here for the betterment of all of Galarian. They are developing technologies and advancements that will help humanity, and in many ways they're right. The people of the city have made great strides in many fields. But I don't know, I feel like most people would be unwilling to accept whatever truth there may be, especially with near nothing you have to back us up. Especially coming from strangers and outsiders.
How far can you get us into the archives before your oath prevents you from going further? Clearly your oath does not prevent you from seeking help. Does it prevent you from giving help?
I could take you some way, but I feel I may be of better service elsewhere. I need to maintain the charade that all is well. It took some organization to ensure that even just this guardhouse now would have only 4 of us here to meet you.
But a question. Is it possible to get one of those 3 to be our tour guide?
As opposed to Grigorovic?
Yeah, someone who he's on our side.
I would see if I could pull strings.
That would make it a lot easier. And about the archive, do you have a layout of the building itself, how to get to the archive, a map?
I do. The archive itself is sequestered beneath the southwestern tower of the Golden Citadel. Fortunately for you, all of the areas before it, all of the libraries and the studies and the resources are public domain. They are perfectly available for you to be escorted through by, I believe it is Grigorovic who has been assigned to you. Not because it was I who assigned him, unfortunately. I had Councilor of Immigration oversees that. But because I'm a counselor and I can find things. Unfortunately, the library itself that is posited above the archive is off limits. It is not continually guarded by Citadel Guard, but it is heavily patrolled.
Perhaps a good old comrade from my homeland might be, and my desire to speak of the old times might be good enough to get someone switched. Or whatever else you can think of.
Or you tell him that Gorvik cited me as a Yosoki, and I like that one more because he knows how to say some Yosoki words.
Unfortunately, the guides are a hand-picked and very, very tightly curated profession.
Likely the kind that don't ask questions.
Like the kinds who would not raise any concern or have...
Unshakable true believers who wouldn't be swayed by outside chatter.
Handpicked by the Councilor of Immigration and all individually approved by Minkari himself. They are small in number so that all of the promise guards, all of the career guards, those of us who don't do this as part of our city service, but as our main path, and certainly all of the Citadel Guard, know their names and faces. A guard that I could assign you would aid you no further in accessing the Citadel archives than Gregorovic would, but other than perhaps having an easier time looking the other way. But any Citadel Guard who would spot you without an escort, or with an improper one, would be quick to turn your way.
We've gotten to more secure places, I think. We can make it happen.
I think the situation of promise, its functionality, and its general peace will aid you. While the area is patrolled, it is due, I see now, more to Minkari's paranoia than anything else. But they do not expect trouble, and they've hardly ever experienced it. They carry horns, the Citadel guards, and are trained to blow them at the first sign of trouble. They are magically empowered. Not only will their sound echo throughout the whole of the Golden Citadel, but they will activate magical defenses, blocking all of the doors within the whole of the Citadel.
If the sound can't get out, would it still work, you think?
That I do not know. The means and resources of the Citadel Guard are not under my purview. Only Minkari's personally. I know they only number 24, and they live wholly within the Golden Citadel itself. They do not leave. Those who are off duty are resting in the barracks on site.
When was the last time a guard used one of these horns?
I do not know that it has ever happened in my memory.
Would the citizenry be able to hear these horns as well? Would they know what it was?
Even if they did not on reaction, I think an alarm horn is no musical instrument. Beyond that, the guards scattered throughout the rest of the Citadel would be quick to respond and usher the innocents out. They are well trained in its usage, even if its need is rare.
We may need to prepare a bit. Certainly the wonders available in the markets of this city have been well touted to us. Any chance that we might find something that might be useful there, or is there a reserved section, much like as adamant arrow tips wouldn't be kept out in open display?
Those who are allowed visitor spins, who are allowed within the walls of Promise, those are trusted by Minkari and by the city. There is near nothing that is off limits to you, save for the lockdown areas of the Citadel itself. Even the guardhouses, if you knocked upon the door, I am certain they would be amenable to inviting you inside and showing you around as tourists. The city is open to you, near as much as a proper citizen proper. You could find anything you need. But
Useful.
beyond that, I have access to and oversee much of the city's armories. If there is anything you require as far as arms or armor, I would hope it would not come to it, but what you will find once you access the archives themselves, I have no knowledge. I don't know if the Citadel Guard themselves patrol the archives proper, Or if their contracts even forego them from entering. I don't know. But I would do all that I could to aid you, as I fear this is, well, as much a matter of national security as has ever happened under my watch. I could provide you with weapons, armor, fundamental runes of anything that you desire.
Well, certainly it would be much amiss to turn that down. We'll see what you have and see what we can go and make use of. Anything else we can check the market for? If anyone has any ideas on specific approaches you'd like, I have a couple that come to mind.
I can provide you with major potency, major striking runes, major resilience. The greatest magics the Promise has to offer in any arms or armor that you need.
In the meantime, we should make sure that we are not attracting attention. While I can appreciate that you would potentially try to pull strings, I think that even raising the slightest bit of suspicion would be too much. As my father would often tell me, you don't reach into a nest of vipers blind. You'll still get bit, but you won't know by how many. And we are doing just that. So let's illuminate first.
I think it may perhaps be wise to spend the better part of this day throughout the town. The graduation day ceremonies bring a lot of people into the Golden Citadel. Many of the councilors give remarks about the graduating class, about the state of promise, about the Golden Endeavor, and Kare's oversight, his wisdom. It used to be a day I looked forward to, but now I don't even know that I can bear to visit myself.
I believe he'll be back in 2 more days.
Have you spoken with him?
No, but I have my sources.
Then perhaps the sooner we begin, the better.
We have a timetable. We can operate within it freely.
You have spoken with the head councilwoman.
Is that what you think?
I'm not sure who else it could be.
Process of elimination, then, I suppose. And what of it, then?
I had feared that Menkari was not acting alone. That he had at least someone on the council directly aiding with whatever schemes he has. But I had certainly not suspected Councilor Mentrigal.
You suspect she is potentially a traitor, then?
She reached out to you.
We ran into each other through Providence. Perhaps it was orchestrated, but I find it unlikely.
That's a high coincidence, actually.
You have been in the city for 1 afternoon. Our guards took note of you and reported to me the moment you walked through the doors. And
But not on Hermea for 1 afternoon. We came to Breach Hill through a gate. We came from Breach Hill through a gate. Opened in Rankare's own personal sanctum. Not our intention, of course. Our intention was to come here and speak to him.
I'm unfamiliar with Breach Hill. Menkare's lair leads elsewhere?
There's a locked gate. We have the key to it. I don't think he does, though.
This is like a dwarven city. This is beneath the island?
No. Gate. If only Resme were here.
I pull out a map. Breach Hill's here. Right here.
This is magic then.
Oh yes.
Yeah, ancient.
I didn't say that, did I? Resme said it so much better than I do.
Well,
I mean, we can give you a history of it, but that's a long lecture.
Hardly time, I suppose, but we ran into her there.
I don't even know how to take that, honestly. But
Well, regardless, why do you suspect that she's a traitor then? Because certainly...
But it is too much of a coincidence for her to simply have been waiting there to meet you. Certainly she does not spend her days just passing time in Menkari's lair. I suspect, given all that has happened, that even Menkari could not facilitate an operation of this size by himself. even with his Citadel guards, there must be more. Or there must be others that there must be some contact he has to facilitate things outside the city. He cannot leave personally for every little thing.
Oh, certainly at the Scarlet Triad up until a short while ago.
From what I hear, Inkari has been so absorbed with his endeavor that he hasn't had contact with the Triad in years.
That does track, actually.
It does track with his notes, yes, indeed. Etrix was quite upset about it.
He's very, very crybaby about it. Not enough attention from Daddy.
It's certainly food for thought.
Is Miss Treagle going to be at the Big Dome meeting with people
This
doing
afternoon?
speeches?
Very possibly. I don't know. We are not terribly close, she and I.
Ultimately, I think this is a question that we probably can't answer immediately. It seems like you have a good relation with the Ekajay from the past, and so Xerxes might be something just to focus our efforts on for now and keep this other question in mind.
Head Councilor
but I-
Treagle, she cares more for this city than anyone. She is the most dedicated to Minkari's vision of anyone on the council. That's why she's become head councilor. She would give anything for her people.
She would.
If
I want to go talk to her.
Minkari is lost, if he is compromised, if this glorious endeavor is something I fear it might be, I can't imagine her going along with it.
So you don't think she's a traitor,
I didn't until you mentioned that she was the first one contacted.
but now you do think she's a traitor.
Now I don't know what to think.
Right, so let's focus on Xerxes.
You're fair. This is not this sort of operation. These are not things I am familiar with. I've never had to play this game of subterfuge and secrets.
I want to go see Miss Treagle. I want to go thank her for the parade, for inviting us into her city.
A fine excuse, but I think she'll be a rather busy today, don't you
Well,
think?
if she's giving speeches and meeting with people in the big dome, I'm sure we can just go in with visitor passes and see her.
We probably could attend, certainly, but wouldn't our efforts be better spent actually preparing for our endeavors?
Compared to, listen, I don't know if it means anything. I'm gonna pull out Raz's or Mataz's little box that I keep him in. All right, Mataz, into the box. And Raz is gonna start incanting whispers and whispers and lies of eyes, thousands and thousands of eyes to see. I see the truth beyond the veil. I hear the whispers beyond the veil. And he's going to touch Mataz. And for an instant, you're just going to see a little eye pop up in Mataz's, in the middle of his forehead, and then blink once, twice, and then disappear. Roshin, do me a favor. Touch Mataz.
I don't think I want to.
Touch the rat.
Fine.
Touches him. Nothing happens. I'll turn your back to me. I'm going to turn my back to you and just hold out a hand in front of you with a number of fingers.
Certainly, certainly.
And 3.
Oh, you got it right.
Yeah, I can see through you. I can see everything you see. I can't hear everything you hear. It's a great way of spying on people. Now touch her.
I've never really regretted not dedicating my life to studies of magic, but
Touch her, please.
I definitely don't regret it right now.
Touch her.
Certainly strange, isn't it? And
There's no sensation. Nothing pops up. You don't see anything. Now you turn your back and do the same thing.
I think I understand
Yes.
the concepts.
Yes, I can spread it to one.
You can see through my eyes.
I can see, yes, through your eyes, see through you. I can't hear, but I can read lips. I can read what other people are saying around you, and you can spread it to 2 people you touch. It's a great way of spying on people. It's how I saw everything that happened in the Breach Hill when you guys were fighting the Baylor.
oh, yes, the exploding one.
Yes, the exploding one.
Made an
I saw
abs-
the whole fight.
He made
Gruesome.
an absolute mess. Regardless, though, that actually might be a way to get you information. Or did you actually ask Miss Treagle things?
Huh?
Or you just wanted to keep an eye on her?
I just want to keep an eye on her.
Well, then this will work perfectly fine.
Yep, you just can't touch anyone else until you touch her.
Regardless, I don't want to keep you over long. I already have taken some degree of risk by inviting you here. Grigorovic certainly will have some curiosities, I hope not suspicions, about our interest in you. And if I keep you over long, I don't want any questions to start being asked. I do not know there is much more I can give you aside from direct aid in the forms of equipment, so whatever weapons and armor you're most familiar with, if you can inform my lieutenant, then we will prepare for you the finest you have ever seen. If instead you already have things with magical properties you are quite attached to, we could transfer runes to them as well. However, it's most convenient, whatever works the best for you. It is all I really feel I can do to help.
I think it'll be plenty of help, actually. We'll take all the help you can give us, and we possibly will need it all. But, yes, we'll sort it out.
Then, wish you the best of luck. And I hope that, for both of our sakes, you find no trouble accessing this archive. But if you can find anything about Xerxes, if he still lives, please do what you can.
Of course.
Yeah.
You would have loved the city.
I'm sorry?
You would have loved the city.
Maybe. I will have the lieutenant escort you back to the Beggar's Quarter. So, if for no other reason than to fend off any other guards inquiring where your guide is.
May I have a few minutes?
Of course.
Roshin's going to quickly kind of clear a section of the table over and pull into her pocket and take out a colored sand, sort of like a dull red, and she's going to sprinkle it over, and she's going to place her hand in it strongly, kind of making it puff out. And she's going to start focusing on it and channeling magic, and she's going to cast a Read Omens. And the topic of the Read Omens is going to be the captain's relationship with Councilor Treagle over the next week. And
Isn't this like, this is Wheel or Woe, right?
this is I get a funny little rhyme that let me get the card out.
Got him.
Hey, it's uncommon. You gave it to me.
I know, I did this to myself.
You peek into the future, choose a particular goal, event, or activity that will occur within a week. You learn a cryptic clue or piece of advice that could help with the chosen event, also in the form of a rhyme or an omen. Often, so you don't have to make it rhyme if you don't want to. But basically, I'd like to look into the future and see if those two are going to be at odds, or if their interests are aligned enough their friendship will be good. Because I'm pretty sure within a week it's going to become pretty clear as to where everyone stands.
Do I roll anything for this, or do you just get it?
No, I just get it.
Okay.
Unless there's something going on that would make it not work.
The means of sword and spell conflict, their ends widely the same. Their methods would drive a wedge most thick. Relationships ruined, none remain.
Very well done, very well done.
Yeah. She'll nod for a bit. Perhaps, and she'll look back at the patterns of sand. And
we
she'll
didn't hear this.
No, it just
Yeah,
echoes in
okay,
my head.
okay.
Sometimes I say it out loud for effect, but
Right,
so I wouldn't.
okay.
Yeah, maybe not in this instance. Perhaps keep your cards close to the chest for now.
Plan's no different.
Good. Keep it up. Sorry to have taken up some extra time, everyone.
Well, spend the day as you will. There are a great many incredible sights to see within Promise, that much is certain. I can say no ill words of my peers, regardless of Minkari's intentions or whatever his glorious endeavor may hold. All those within the city's walls, I truly believe, mean well. Their innovations, incredible, impressive to behold. Those of you with interest in arms and armor, the Artisan's Quarter has a great number of incredible developments. Have you seen Orichalcum? Have you heard of it?
Have I? I don't think Roshin knows what the heck that is.
Vaguely. I read about it once.
It is an incredible metal from beyond the stars. One that retains magic like a jug of water. And, well, the fishery has a great amount of incredible food and cuisines, both from beyond the reaches of Avistan and unique even to this place. There are developments all throughout the city you can go see. It's an incredible place. There's amazing art and fashion. Of course, there is the ceremonies of graduation day. Enjoy yourselves. We know not what tomorrow may bring.
We're on the job, Captain.
And thank you. Thank you for hearing me out. Thank you for giving me an ally that I hope I can put faith in.
We have your back.
Thank you for trusting me.
And for you trusting us.
Lieutenant Discord, we'll take them back to the Beggar's Quarter. They can have Grigorovic escort them wherever they wish to tread. And the lieutenant would nod, turn, unlatch the door, and open it again. And at that, I think we'll take our midstream break here. We'll stand up and stretch our legs as the party makes their way back down to their lodgings in the Beggar's Quarter. And decide where it is they want to go next, what it is they want to do.
And I'm consulting my spreadsheet.
How exactly you want to go about this infiltration of the archives and what you even want while you're down there.
Smash and grab everything.
Her offer is genuine. You have access to major striking, potency, and resilient runes for weapons and armor on whatever it is you need. Even those of you who would want those in the forms of perhaps hand wraps of mighty blows, that can be arranged as well. I am certain this is your first access to major resilient runes, and this is some good value. She is very much willing to extend what help she can. Don't go too far, everyone. We'll be back in a couple of minutes. Feel free to get some snacks, use the bathroom. We got about 10 minutes for a Return to the Age of Ashes show. And thanks, of course, everyone, for joining us. Before we jump, real quick, there is also a giveaway still going on over at our Twitter. We'll get a link here in the chat in a moment where you can win yourself a gift certificate to Norse Foundry anything. It can be dice, it can be trays, it can be, apparently they have candles, I learned.
I love it.
Absolutely anything you want to put that money towards on Norse Foundry. You can use it to outright buy some of their sets or put a pretty big chunk into something real fancy. No restrictions on what it can go to. Also no restrictions on what our Norse Foundry discount code can go to. But on that giveaway, there's a place for a secret code. If you put in AOA 40. Is it just AOA 40? Not UGT AOA 40? Just AOA 40, second discount code. All caps. That will give you 40 entries into that giveaway. That giveaway ends in 5 days. So this is the last time you're going to get a code on this network here. It's currently about 1,200 entries. So plus 40 is a pretty big boost to your odds of getting a win in there.
That's AOA 40.
AOA 40. Okay. Is it a different one or is it still this one? It is? Okay, I've been lied to. It was UGT AOA 40. I was right. UGT AOA 40, all caps. I thought we had another one. I was like, oh, baby, we got another bonus secret code for the second episode. No, it's still UGT AOA 40. If you didn't get it last week, get it in there now. All caps. Be right back, everybody.
I'm going to go buy.
Welcome back, everybody. As we had left off, we had a very interesting conversation with Councilor Nizra Arumalo, who has given us a pretty different perspective on the situation in Promise, the situation with Minkare, and another reason to break into the Citadel archives. Which, good news so far is that no matter what everybody wants, it all seems to just kind of root down to go break into the Citadel archives. So, you know, regardless of what our direction, where we want to go, who we trust, if anyone, seems like as good a starting point as any. You've been escorted back to the Beggar's Quarter by the lieutenant and would have been able to quickly rouse Grigorovic once more to explore throughout the city, to peruse some of the incredible wonders that it had. Now, knowing some concept of what you're up against and what you're after, there was a lot to be found in Promise's surprisingly extensive markets. Again, they do have trade, they do export things, they do need money and food and stuff. And a lot of these people don't have to just make things that are economically efficient, things that will sell well or are worth their production costs. They can make passion projects, they can make incredible works of art, they can make supernaturally powerful magical items.
You know what they call art that doesn't sell well? Bad.
Niche.
Niche.
No, that means someone bought it.
You would see a wide array of interesting things. The most immediately notable of which throughout the afternoon would be the briefly mentioned orichalcum, which a very excitable smith would be able to explain that much of his life's work has been put towards trying to figure out the full potential of this strange metal. Orichalcum is quite literally not of this world. They call it star metal. It is an extremely rare alloy that was born on the asteroids that came down during Earthfall centuries and millennia ago. The event that made the elves leave the planet and go home. Elves are aliens, by the way, if you're unfamiliar with Galarian. I'm just gonna drop that one in there too as a little treat. But orichalcum is the highest tier and rarest and most expensive material in Pathfinder 2nd Edition. I still don't think they've added anything above it, even with everything else. It allows you to add a 4th potency rune onto a weapon or suit of armor, which on a weapon is just straight up more damage, and on armor can be a lot of things. Armor potency runes are wild. They go all over the place. You can be extra slippery. But with an afternoon and evening traveling through the artisan's quarter, the artist, the tailor, the thief, which ends up surprisingly being a wide spread, much more open area with narrower stacked workshops with clockworks, mechanics, incredibly intricate and detailed mechanisms. What would you find anything of interest? Rather, I'm going to save us. We are like 3 years into Age of Ashes. I'm going to save us 2 hours of shopping, RP. I think we're past that by now. I'd like to believe we've moved beyond. I'm sorry. I know this will be your first
Totally
exciting shopping
fine. Totally
experience.
fine.
But would you find anything of interest in the near infinite markets of promise?
Well, I dare say that we might. We have a fair amount of common cash on hand, and we've got some. We've got a pretty fancy, some pretty fancy loot coming through the cave. Specifically, a knife with a bunch of fancy runes on it that got stuck in me.
Very nice for her to leave it there for you.
Yeah, I know, right? Yeah, thank you, Jealous Ghost. And also a crystal filter, which I still don't know what it is, but it might sell for something. So I think between all of that, we actually have enough for Raz and Roshin to get an Apex item.
Ooh.
Raz got a pretty little circlet.
I got a pretty little tiara. I'm a princess rat now.
He's the rat princess. Princess.
It's funny because all this stuff is like designed for humans mostly, and rats aren't really shaped like humans.
Super not a mostly on there, especially with the
he-
ones you're finding in Promise.
Yeah, he has. I never mentioned this before, but he has a mask, like a full-blown face mask that he can't actually wear on his face because
looks like
he
a
has
funnel.
a snout. So he wears it on his shoulder,
Not wear a mask like this or like this.
right? He's on the top of his head, it's under the hat.
Just got it under his chin.
He just holds his head up when he wants to.
Just turn around to my back. It's in the back of my head.
Just Praetor Rickard it. Oh, that's a reference some people will get and it's uncomfortable. But anyway,
It's hard being Yosoki in a human world.
it's hard being Yusoki.
Yosoki live a good life.
But Apex items, all of these things that really just coax out the peak of human skill and strength, the sharpest mind, the strongest arm, they are exactly the kind of thing that would kind of epitomize like what Promise is about, the teachings of Road, Menkare's plan. Absolutely, you'll be able to find Apex items in surprising abundance in Promise. And in your shopping would come to learn that most citizens of Promise are wearing one.
So we can just.
What?
Happy graduation!
It's like your graduation present. You
This
get
is
here's your
when-
belt of giant strength.
This
Timmy.
is when
Like,
we
it's-
need True Chic to steal us Apex items.
Apex items are actually common in the core rulebook, and the reason, literally, is the City of Promise.
Wow.
It is
So just,
one of their innovations.
so just
it
like
is-
we're the reason golems are uncommon.
Promise is the reason Apex items are common. All
These
right.
items that will allow literally anyone to match the strength of a career athlete, to match wits with a master wizard, these items were created here and is probably one of the primary sources of income from their exports due to the incredible value of these individual items. They are common in the greater world. They're extremely expensive, but they are common in availability. They are common in promise.
Ubiquitous. Everywhere.
What's yours, Richard?
So Roisin is she's seen Valentina rock hers, and I need one in red. And since they're so common here,
One of the rare places you would get to pick like colors and designs. They have variety. You just go to like the Belt of Regeneration store. And like 10 of them on a rack.
But does it come in red?
They got different sizes. They got like a children's. So they got like Fisher Price babies first, anklets of dexterity. Like, it's-
Child lifting a boulder above their head.
falling behind in the discus competitions? Here you go. Like,
totally not doping, we swear.
for practice.
Yeah, it's for practice. But yeah, she's gonna get one of those. It's gonna sort of be it's gonna be not even like a silken, but almost like a woven metallic thread, from like a metallic thread, and this with this sort of scarlet copper alloy, and it just kind of folds around almost like chain, but still tieable like cloth. And I'd like it if I get the rose symbol etched into it, but I don't think they're gonna let me get away with it here. So I'll do that on my own time.
Yeah, they would not. They would etch your rose into it. They would not etch the holy symbol of Bonnie into it, because that would be like taking the belt into the artist district, and that is the area that would have the most density of people who are more familiar with the holy symbols and the religious iconography. Because in addition to like just theological discussion, the other place you would find perusing the city that it's freely available and is everywhere is art. There are plenty of depictions of deities, of holy symbols, of worship, both in like sculpture and in framed paintings, murals inside buildings. Artistic license seems to be able to supersede this no religion clause, which is kind of a surprising liberty in the city of literally zero freedom. It would be
Get a
something
wall
that would
picture from
stand out to you. For
Yeah.
I'm going to stop in an apothecary, and I'm going to get some motion sickness pills for when Kaladar returns.
He does get motion sick.
The
And I'm
booming
just gonna
tourism
sort of-
industry.
Yeah.
I was told there was a lot of vomiting in this town, and I haven't seen it.
And because we're in a place where everyone is the best at everything,
Right on my
we're also like definitely eating out on the town and having like a fantastic meal. Because we
Honestly,
We're not dying tomorrow.
can. No, but like, where else are you? When
might.
else are you gonna have access to these types of chefs? We're not leaving Promise without eating like a ton of amazing food.
I wonder how perfect human seafood tastes compared to like Kovlar seafood.
I think you just add enough butter onto something and it just becomes spectacular. I just think that's the recipe.
Do they have butter? I don't think they don't have it
If
anymore.
Promise doesn't have butter, I'm burning it to the
Kevlar.
ground.
I mean, I'm
Kevlar.
also going to a snack shop to make sure that I grab like some snacks both for me to take with me and because Kaladar is going to come back with an empty stomach. And I know he eats because he throws up.
Most of the
She's like a
by the
kid,
transitive property. First.
kid preparing for a field trip here.
When you travel down to the Fisher District, it would be an incredible experience in more ways than one. It is a lane of fine dining that absolutely beggars belief. But it's not traditional like restaurants because they don't have a need for that. It is almost like a delivery nexus. Where there is as much area dedicated to, would have seen throughout a day in the city now that where they don't have like large carts and wagons, they have these small little hand trucks that seem to be, they're supported on like a single wheel, like a wheelbarrow, but without like handles to bear the other side of the weight. They just stand on their own. They stay on their own. You would see the people that are moving them around, regardless of how laden they seem to be, with extremely little effort. Seemingly a very similar enchantment, perhaps, to what is on the causeways above in the city. Now, the vast majority of the food that we processed and created here is immediately delivered out throughout the city. And the only few people that come to visit are yield tourists coming out in here. And speaking
yeah,
of
it's
cool,
not like they have just like a drawer full of like to-go menus at the in the barracks quarters, unless they do.
well, it's not even that. There's barely even menus. The buildings and even the individual chefs are not so much themed on it. Some
You just
single
tell them what
cuisine.
you
Some
want,
are,
and they just feed it to you.
but they just create things.
Okay.
Most people aren't ordering a specific dish so much as like a type or a flavor. They're like, I'm feeling fish.
Yeah.
And then they would come out with something with whatever had been freshly caught that day, whatever chefs on hand had been inspired by.
Whatever the dragon mandates.
Whatever the dragon mandates.
Do they need blind restaurants in Promise?
The dragon mandates Kaga the Loon coming in here. Missed the last 2 weeks. At work now, so can't stay. A hero point for thems that can get one. Is somebody at 3?
I'm currently at 3, I think.
So a hero point for the other 4 of them down the table. You can just go ahead and put one on Miss Resume's seat there. And thank you so much, Kaga.
Thank you.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you,
that
Kaga.
support.
I know I can't get one from you, but you would have given me one.
I
so
think
thank
he gave you
anyway.
most of the ones that you
Actually, I think
already
most of
have.
these are Kagas anyway.
Just haven't gotten to throw them yet. Blind as in just you go in and the chef brings you whatever it is.
And you
that
eat in the
they
dark.
have.
Yes.
Oh, literally blind.
Dark.
Probably not, no.
Omakase plus.
Is that a thing?
Yeah.
totally
Yes,
a
that's actually a
thing.
thing.
Omakase, you go sit down and they just bring you whatever.
But you
Well,
eat it
like
like
the
you
in the dark thing.
You
No,
eat it like
in the
no.
dark.
A blind restaurant is you go into the restaurant. All of the workers are blind.
What?
Yeah, and you eat in the absolute darkness. I went
Yep.
to one in Sofia, Bulgaria.
That
It's
seems like it'd
amazing.
be really difficult.
And you eat with your fingers. You don't use utensils.
Okay.
So
That
everything
seems-
is like hand, but you have no idea what you're eating until the end. And then afterwards you leave and they show you pictures of your food.
It's an experience
It
I
is-
would not
It's
enjoy.
just a prank,
Yeah,
bro.
I'm a pass. I'm a pass on that one. It sounds interesting.
Surprise, you
I don't
ate
know.
kobold feet.
I don't know.
My hat broke.
I would try it. I don't know if I would enjoy it, but I would try it. Anyway,
Worth
no.
it.
But they
No.
would absolutely have just like whatever the chef's passion or new recipe or best ingredients that they had in freshest prep for today, and just like bring me whatever. In addition to you being able to order virtually anything.
Yeah.
There is a large staff, a huge staff of trained chefs from all throughout Avestan, because it seems like the fishery district quite literally feeds the entire city. These career cooks are here all day, living their absolute dream of not having to deal with crappy customers at a restaurant and just getting to
that.
make stuff that's great because they enjoy the art.
Are we sure we want to overthrow this place? I mean, that's
It's pretty
Customer
good.
service here is great.
All 5-star DoorDash all the time. That sounds pretty awesome.
Dragon
The
eats.
fishery district can stay.
Towards the rest of the city, we keep the fishery. But with that behind you, an eventful and engaging, a very interesting afternoon and evening. As the sun sets, Grigorovic would inform you that during the night, he has to escort you back to the Beggar's Quarter, and you have to remain there. There are not guide services available while the sun is down, and visitors are not allowed to explore the city or to leave the Beggar's Quarter during the night. There are still amenities within the Beggar's Quarter. There are still performances. There is still entertainment, and you can still receive food. You can still have things brought in, but you can't leave. Night would pass. You've got your Apex items. At some point during that afternoon and the following morning, Councilwoman Arumalo would arrange either the delivery or the literal application of plenty of runes for the group of you, ensuring that all of us are in our toppest condition here, +3 major striking weapons, +3 major resilient armor. I believe nobody has +3 or major resilient armor right now.
Nope.
Which means everyone would just get a flat +1 to your armor class and to all saving throws. That's what those 2 runes do. If you don't have a +3 weapon, your attack rolls would also go up by 1. And if you don't have a major striking weapon, you would add another die. You should be rolling 4 of the base die on your weapon at this point.
Guess you just got 2 extra pluses and 3 extra dice to a melee weapon.
You have a +3 major striking
Letter opener.
dagger. You just sold a +3 major striking dagger. I guess this one's free, so it's still economical.
There you go.
Like, it's-
Wait, can we take that dagger and sell it also? We have the infinite money glitch. Everybody.
We lost a dagger. We're sorry.
Probably in bad taste, but you could. I mean, Councilor Arumalo will help you how she can, but if you start fencing like runes from the guard, it's gonna raise some suspicions,
I
perhaps.
feel like the people buying your weapons might recognize.
These look like guard weapons. No, it's fine. I promise.
This is a guard longsword. Like, why are you selling me this?
Well, look, if it was a guard longsword, a guard would have it.
Oh, that's fair.
Us.
All right, here's 12,000 gold. She's right.
No one lies in this city. We are all honest individuals.
But the following morning, the 3rd day of the graduation festivities, 3rd and final day of the event would be well underway. With the sun rising, so too would the festivities commence. In the fairgrounds that have been set up, dominating nearly a third of the geographical area of Promise near that front gate. Your trips around the city would have shown you that that area is huge. It is miles long and a mile wide. Again, Promise is a big city. But it's always feels weirdly like a ghost town. When you walk around, there are just so few people in the streets. The population density is like 0 adjacent in the city as a whole. Aldanos Park as well would still have some performances. The one where you had been contacted by Councilwoman Arumalo's guards. Most importantly, there would be nothing of note going on in the Golden Citadel.
Time to go.
I think that's our cue.
A group of you would move quickly through the city with Grigorovic leading you to see what is certainly the most obvious tourist attraction within the city, the giant golden bubble. It is truly almost comically massive. Again, the 4 towers at each of the corners of this dome tower 600 feet over the ground. Hundreds of feet, even above the comically high walls. The sphere itself rising 2/3 of that height, its apex 400 feet above the ground, and spreading out to equal in width. It is.
Kare is really just really small. He's just compensating. He's like this big.
It's like a little,
He's like
one of
a
those
house
from like a house drake. That's what I was trying to think of. I think the Crimson Throne.
Yeah.
He's a little golden house drake. He's just very angry.
Everything will be huge.
But even for a fully grown dragon, this building would be incredible. You would enter from any of the 4 cardinal directions through a massive open 20-foot awning that leads inside. And much as you have been able to peek in before as you kind of walked around with the parade, the inside is hardly an inside. The dome is so big that it very much doesn't feel like you've walked inside a building. The scale is so massive, and the underside of this gilded dome looks like a sky its very own. The skies outside on Hermea this day are perfectly clear of clouds, clean and blue. But the skies inside here have errant, floating, fluffy clouds drifting about. The exact perfect center of the top of the dome is something so bright it may as well be the sun. It hurts to look at, illuminating the whole of the inside of the area with what is indistinguishable from perfect daylight. It is a truly incredible building. We'll say you come in from the west. Through this massive gateway that is, when I say 20 feet, I meant like 80 feet wide, this archway. It's another 80 feet or so on either sides. Here is what you would immediately see. Keep in mind, every one of these squares is 20 feet.
Oh, jeez.
The Citadel is massive. I literally cannot overstate how big it is.
Yeah.
And it would be divided, it would look like a city itself, divided into 4 quarters, all fairly distant from each other, as the major walkways between each is hundreds of feet wide. 4 at the foot of each of the great towers, and you can see the cylindrical interior of each tower near the base of the sphere as it rises up, jutting out in the back of each of these 4 sectors. The buildings are not really any building bigger than a traditional building. So it's these 4 kind of shadowed areas, because you can't see inside them from here, are these like 4 separate structures, about 20 feet high, with a kind of very gently sloping roof that goes up towards the back of the dome, ending up about 40 feet where it connects with the inside of the sphere. And you can just again see a bit of that tower poking in. As Grigorovic leads you inside, he kind of gestures to everything. It is certainly a sight to see.
I am underneath Roshin's feet. Like, I don't really feel comfortable in very, very, very big buildings. Outside is okay. Big buildings are not.
All right, this is actually really impressive. Like, Roshin's just gawking. She's trying not to, but it's just too big. It's too impressive.
It may surprise you to learn, but you are not alone in that opinion. There are several that I have taken throughout the Citadel here who expressed similar concerns. The almost fear. One told me they felt as if they were falling towards the ceiling if they simply looked up, though it is, well, almost a mirror of a fine, if slightly cloudy day.
It's more of a sense of feeling lonely in a very big spot.
Are you sure those aren't real clouds? It's certainly big enough to be.
If only there was a way we could show you the inside of this at night. It changes with the day and night. It is as Minkari's will. I believe he has left it on a sort of a cycle, a loop, while he has been gone, to attune to day and to night. But sometimes, or some holidays, not graduation day, there are some evening festivals here, where the sun remains, even as the true one outside has left, and those inside this dome would forget the hour.
Handy that, I imagine.
I don't like it.
And you're walking towards the center as you go, and you start to approach this kind of like octagonal depression in the middle here that is again hundreds of feet wide. And it looks to be a pit that goes down through a couple of tiers, forming a massive amphitheater set into the floor of the center of the Golden Citadel. Sets of stairs lead down the cardinal directions, and then anti-cardinals down to the bottom portion, leading to about a 40-foot raised stone platform in the center. Around the center slab on the ridge of this second tier are 13 chairs, elegantly arranged in a circle around you. Yes, 13, I did not screw it up this time. 12 guys in a row and 13 chairs. All human-sized. It is a huge area with no visible area for seating other than those 13 chairs. This is not an area to fill with people watching the middle. It seems anyone who wished to observe would be around the edges up here where you are. And as Grigorovic kind of motions to it, it's not being used for anything today. If you wish to go down and see or even stand upon this stage, we would gladly take you.
Yes, let's.
And he would take you down the stairs to the second set of stairs to this kind of central podium. This is the speaking podium where whoever it is that has taken the stage to address the rest of the council, typically Minkari, gives his words, gives his speeches out not just to the Council of Enlightenment, but to all of the people who gathered around who wish to hear it. There is a trick, both of acoustics and enchantment, that allows the voice of anyone standing upon this podium to be clearly heard throughout all of this communal area.
So where does Menkari station himself when this is happening?
And he points out to the northernmost of the chairs, with the 13 of them, the only one that would be aligned perfectly with one of the staircases, one of the great archways behind it. That is Menkari's seat. When he sits in on the Council of Enlightenment, if he wishes to join it as a peer, he does so in his human guise. Even the size of this podium here, typically he addresses the people in that form. He would appear no different than to you and I. But, of course, all of the area here is built more than large enough to accommodate him in his true form. His draconic visage is not unknown and not a rare sight throughout the Citadel.
Certainly not given the space they accounted for him in the parade.
The Causeways as well. All of the city, at least throughout the Citadel and the upper reaches, is built so that Menkari can walk it at will. Admittedly, much of the streets below the buildings, they are too small for him to walk other than in his human form comfortably, and he rarely imposes down below, regardless. He's a busy figure with much to tend to. And again, I apologize he could not be here for your visit. Perhaps he will return before you leave.
Perhaps so.
So while you're here, you have a purpose. And you would notice a couple of other things that would be some degree of relevance. The chamber is not empty. It is largely empty, but still there are some scholars, there are some scribes and secretaries tending to their daily business, some researchers skirting about mostly towards the southwestern quadrant, the one that you had been told is where the archive access is by the captain of the guard. But additionally, there are guards. They seem to be moving in pairs, and at any time that you've been in here, there was a pair of guards at each of the 4 junctions around this central council chamber between each of the 4 sets of buildings.
And these are like city guards, like promised
They
city
look
guards.
a little different.
Okay.
These guards, their helms are fully gilded, and their chest plate is emblazoned with a massive visage, much like the smaller one on the helms of normal guards. Just a huge face, top of the head of a golden dragon, reaching down from shoulders to stomach.
You have special gear as you wear when you're on rotation inside here, are you?
There's no rotation in here. The Citadel guards are Menkari's personal chosen. Unfortunately, even I do not have access to show you much of the interior of the Citadel. But I can show you much of the southern sides here. The southwestern is many of our libraries, our research chambers, areas of study, and you are welcome to peruse them at your leisure. You can access all of those areas save for the tower itself, unfortunately. Those are Menkari's personal stores and his archives. On the eastern side here, we actually have a great amount of visitors' resources, a museum of Hermea dedicated to the history of promise, Menkari's golden endeavor, his ideals, and the knowledge and teachings of Erodin that he still holds close to his people today, as well as meeting rooms, studies, places of quiet and reflection, where many of the visitors arrive for meetings with either Menkari personally, members of the council, or others within Promise.
Well, I know Raz, for example, couldn't get his hands. Keeping him away from a book for too long is almost impossible. But any other preferences?
I'm curious to see this museum and to see Menkari's ideals written explicitly somewhere.
Anywhere that's not in this big room. Honestly, I like the books. Books are a good idea. I like reading. I wonder if he has a book I haven't read.
And
There's a lot.
as you're talking here, you see about in unison a pair of guards step out from each of the 4 main centers into the main promenades that lead down to this central chamber. Each of the 4 pairs walk together, coming towards the pair of guards already stationed at the junctions, arrive, and as they do, the pairs of guards stationed at the junction all go into the next section.
changing of the guards, is it?
Oh, it's simply patrol routes. Every, I don't know, 15, 20 minutes or so is about how long it takes for them to patrol throughout each of these areas. It is almost ceremonial, I suppose.
They move with quite a unison.
Well, as I said, the Citadel guards are hand-selected by Menkare, and they have no other tasks from the city. This is their lives. They live here. They sleep in the quarters in the northern towers. They eat. They stay. They do not travel beyond the expanse of the Citadel itself unless Menkare needs them for some personal duty.
Fascinating. Well, quite ceremonial, seem quite professional.
So while you are here, we're not going to go into, like, encounter mode and move square by square, obviously. That would be insane. But there are a couple of actions that you could take kind of widely that might help you with this. You get the feeling, given the size of this entire structure, even the buildings within these centers at the corners are going to be huge, beyond the scope of just kind of poking your head in and looking around and getting a feel for what's in there. You could do that, but it would also take you some time to investigate them. That would be an activity that, like, any of you can commit to if you want that to be what you are doing at the moment, is really just trying to see or find anything you can in the area. Let me know. Consider that an option for your exploration activities. So with that, what are you all doing as Grigorovic shows you around the Citadel?
So Roisin is perfectly happy to follow along with where anyone else goes, just to be around, but she's going to be paying attention to the guards and seeing how long it takes them to go through an area, and seeing if there's any guards when they come out to change, if there's any guards left in the area. Because the idea is that she heard that there were 12 of them. There are apparently 16, and because there's 4 pairs of 2.
There are at least 16 on duty right now.
There are at least 16 on duty right now.
I don't know if I misspoke or you misheard, but the guard captain said 2 dozen.
Oh, 2 dozen. Okay, I heard 1 dozen. Okay, so then there are 16 on patrol here. That'd probably be 8 left, and they probably have 8-hour shifts. Well, they'd probably have 16-hour shifts then in that case. Hate to work there. But looking at, because the remaining 8 are probably resting. That's what Roisin's thinking. So at the time when the guard changes, there should be nobody in that area. So Roisin wants to confirm that.
Okay.
On that note, I'm trying to think of a way to cast a spell without raising suspicion. Maybe ask to go to the bathroom.
The classic.
Yeah.
Has to go to the bathroom. Sorry, I gotta pee.
I really gotta pee, actually. I didn't pee this morning.
Oh yes, your Soki allergy. It's terrible if they hold on. They'll actually pop like.
I have a really small bladder.
Oh, of course. Down to the southern promenade here on the southern approach, there are a series of doors on your left. The first one there is Chambers of Respite.
I will accompany him.
Drag SS with me.
Of course. I suppose the rest of us can remain around the council chambers until you are ready.
Yeah. It won't take long.
So what do you think of Valentina?
So what are you two doing exploration mode?
He said, like, are we within range of, like, the museum, or is that something like a different area?
The museum would be in that building. It would be in that southern building, and Grigorovic doesn't seem to want to leave the area that has the bathrooms until everyone's come out of the bathrooms.
Okay. And the archives are above us?
The archives,
But they're not. They're in the tower, and then
they're
above that,
accessed by the southwestern tower.
Okay.
The museum seems to be in the southeastern quadrant.
Right. I just remember, like, something about the archives being above, and I was trying to place that.
Probably once you go in that southwestern area, we're probably not coming out for a while.
Right. Yeah. So I'm looking at the layout of, like, what's above us, as far as being able to maneuver, not necessarily on the ground. So I'm looking for handholds and opportunities to do that type of activity and maybe get past guards eventually.
Everything seems to be made of pretty smooth,
Very smooth
white brick.
Okay.
But that said, it's not like all polished surfaces. It's fairly smooth brickwork for a medieval society.
Okay.
It would be tough to climb, maybe for somebody that was not legendary in athletics. What's your modifier on athletics?
My athletics modifier is 36.
You would have absolutely no trouble climbing these.
Okay.
In fact, it would be unfathomable that you would like have so much of an issue as to fall without incredible duress. You literally could not critically fail to climb these walls. A nat 1 bumping you down a tier still would be a regular failure.
Nice. So
If you're not Valentina, it looks completely impossible to climb up.
So Rashina's just asked me like what I'm thinking and like what I'm thinking about. So I'm thinking that there are quite a number of guards, but they do seem more interested in what's happening on the ground than what's happening above, which could be to our advantage ultimately.
So
Wait, I was like, Grigorovic
have a
like standing right
bench.
next to us.
Guard
Oh, Sam,
right
I was like standing right there. I thought he was like looking elsewhere.
now he's waiting with us for them to come
My
out.
bad. I wouldn't have said that then. I thought like,
You have a tour guide that's like right there.
yeah.
Well,
Never
we're just gonna
mind.
put him in the
Just
trash
kidding.
can.
Bonk.
Undo.
Yeah, let's
Yeah,
just
exactly.
undo. I got distracted by
Safe
these
scum,
guys going to
safe
the
scum.
bathroom. I thought he was like, I don't know, ushering them that way or something.
So as the two of you make it
Yeah.
into that chamber here, that first door on your left in the southern passageway on the eastern side would lead to a hallway with what look like a half dozen smaller chambers off to either side. They would in fact just be bathrooms.
Yeah, they're bathrooms. No one else is in. No guards are in here. I don't really care about regular citizens. I just don't want to look.
There'd be
suspicious.
actually nobody in here at the moment. It would just be you.
Cool.
and Estes.
Mr. Estes, how confident are you in your ability to touch a guard without being caught?
Fairly.
Oh, perfect. Come here. Give me a hand. Whispers and whispers and lies and lies. I see through the veil. See through my eyes. I give you one. Here you go. Pop. Touch 2 of them. Hopefully 2 different groups. I cast proliferating eyes on Estes. Now he has 2 eyeballs to share.
Okay.
So
fair
the
enough.
first 2 creatures he touches gets an eyeball, and then I get to see through those eyeballs.
Fair enough.
And then I take out a little water bottle and just kind of splash it to make it sound like I'm peeing. And then I actually use the bathroom.
Wait, why did
Pee,
you, why did
regular pee,
why did you fake what?
act casual.
It's like sticking your hand in water at the sound of it made him like
Yes.
actually have to go
Okay,
kind of thing.
fair enough.
A high stress
I
situation.
didn't have to pee when I got here, but now I do.
I had to pee before I got here. Got confused by the spell. Forgot I had to pee. And now I have to pee.
Fair enough.
There's a lot of confusion and forgetting happening in this particular scenario.
After that, I assumed the pair of you would come out to see Rasheen and Valentina still staying with Grigorovic, not far from a stationary pair of guards at the front of the junction.
Esphus does have legendary sneak, so as he's walking, he just makes no sound. Like even for a
Absolute
place,
silence.
absolute silence. Just for a place that's as large and as echoing as this can be, just absolute silence. Is going to attempt to make his way undetected towards. Or we're walking past a pair of guards that are.
Past the pair of guards, and you're towards Grigorovic. Are you trying to like sneak out of the bathroom hallway to be hidden from all the guards?
Actually, yes, because I want to try and see if I can sneak a touch to one of the guards.
Okay. Make me a stealth check.
Okay.
Kind of a thievery, because you gotta actually like touch him.
Okay.
Give me a thievery check.
Okay.
I'm kind of stereotyping like the edgy, dark elf here.
So that will be a 42.
42, as you slip up to one of the guards at the edge of the junction here, doesn't seem to take any notice of you at all as you just very, very gently touch the outside of his armor and feel the magic flow out into him.
Oh, I'm glad it didn't be skin to skin. I thought you were like reaching over and like caressing behind the ear or something.
Stick a finger up there. Doesn't have to be skin to skin,
Just
does
wet
it?
Willie the guard.
Just like boop him on the nose. Like,
Students poke through the eyeballs.
And at the same time, can I? Because I can be sneaking while also performing another activity. So can
Yes.
I do something like seeking, like perceiving? I'm looking for things that are undetected. Like we can see these guards out
Right.
in the open, but I'm looking for like, are there more hidden or something hidden of the like?
There's one right behind you.
As you're looking at, I don't need a perception check right now, but as you're looking at his main atrium here, It's truly massive, and you don't really see anything other than like 4 pairs of guards that are standing at points seem to be sufficient to oversee this. Again, it's not a city that really expects a lot of trouble. But are you rejoining the group after that?
Oh yeah, rejoining the group, and it's Grigorovich is the
Grigorovic.
Grigorovich. Will also try to do a similar thing of like while making no noise, just pass by and just touch on.
So you are sneaking. Raz is walking up, and you are sneaking up.
I just don't. It just says for flavor. It's just Estes just makes no sound. So he's just,
Okay, I was just curious if you're like literally stealthing, and Grigorovic's like, is Estes okay? Or like,
like no. It's just like for flavor purposes.
that's fine.
He's like making no sound because of how quiet he is and
Right.
whatnot. So
and rejoining the group, touching Grigorovic as well. He would not seem to notice either, as his attention is towards Valentina. So, if everyone is ready, you had expressed interest in seeing the Herman Museum.
Yes.
Absolutely. We will have to go here through the visitors' quarter, and then I will lead you to, and you are free to peruse at your leisure.
Fantastic.
If there are any questions you have, I would hopefully be able to explain, but it is fairly in-depth. I don't know that I will be able to elaborate much beyond what is present there. I am not a historian of promise so much as a student of cultures from beyond. And he's leading you at this point towards a door in the like diagonal main wall of the northeastern sector here. It appears to be the only door that you can see, or southeastern, sorry, in the main area. Now these doors are interesting because they're gigantic. The doors are 20 feet wide, hugely tall. They must be inordinately heavy and difficult to open. However,
Magic.
I know, I can't say it's on a straight face. It's so funny. I mean, okay, it's not funny. It's super serious. In the middle of each door, there is a very tiny human-sized door.
It's magic.
Not magic. It's like a doggy door, but for people. There's
If ever this is what Menkari thinks of us.
there is the massive arched dual stone doors with their crease down the center, and off the side of the crease is a much smaller rectangular human-sized door, set into one half of each of the huge doors.
I want to open
And-
one of the huge doors.
You know, my
And-
family had dogs back in Breach Hill, and we had one of these.
Seriously, can I try to pull the door open?
If do you want to try to push the entire door?
Yes.
Okay, give me an athletics check.
Everything
While
in Breach Hill,
Rasheen's-
everything in Promise weighs way less than it actually is supposed to.
While
So I really like. It would be funny if you
Rasheen
just pushed at it with a finger and it just like swings open.
While Rasheen is doing that, I'm actually going to touch Grigorovich, whatever his name is. And now I have 2 eyeballs.
Okay, and
They just keep spreading.
Right, you didn't have to actually give it to yourself.
Belt gives you an athletics bonus, right? Like +3, I think.
It's something like that, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So.
to lift heavy things. I give it to you on this.
Oh, I get the lifting one too. Okay.
I mean, it's lifting is what it is. Your goal here is to move an incredibly heavy object, so that's like in the spirit of the Belt of Giant Strength. Yeah.
All right. Cool. So Roshin's gonna put her hands and just flex and press, digging her feet into the
And
stone.
Grigorovic quickly steps away from Raz. I cannot fault you for wishing to test yourself. What was your total?
Total is gonna be a 30, 40, 50.
With a 50, you hear like a loud creak and crack, and the door, it's not even that difficult, pushes inward. And Grigorva kind of stops and steps back, and you would see the attention of literally all 4 of the pairs of guards throughout the Citadel kind of turn your direction towards this huge door. I suppose I need not underestimate you.
Just kind of crack her shoulders. I'm not using a doggy door in this place.
They are simply for convenience. Certainly you can move these doors, but it is much easier to simply open the smaller one. It is on well-oiled hinges. It moves cleanly.
For future reference, there's a force open, which is a +2.
Okay.
Notes.
I think it's literally what he's doing.
Yeah.
Yeah, fair enough. Very well. And he would motion you through into extremely large chamber that seems to be the majority of the northeastern complex. While this area is very large, it features numerous plush sofas, comfortable chairs, tables that are already set up with like hors d'oeuvres, snacks, and drinks of various types around the room. And you would also see a half dozen servants working around as well. You would not be the only people in this room. You would not actually be the only people in this room with visitors' pins. There would appear to be 2 other groups, 1 pair of humans and 1 trio of elves sat at different tables throughout, each with 2 servants seeming to attend the group as 2 others just kind of clean and work around the room. So to call back on the exploration activity, being able to search one of these rooms, to look through it, the rooms are all large enough that you have to remain there for 10 minutes to really get like a decent look through the area. It's not something you'd be able to do just casually walking through. At the moment, Grigorovic seems to be just moving straight on through towards the Hermaean Museum. He would lead you through to the north wall of this room, where the door would not be smaller. It is another one of these massive dragon-sized doors. The smaller doors tend to do it. What's your modifier?
Plus 35, 36, 37 with the force open bonus.
Yeah, it's enough. I'm not going to make you roll for it. Like, you can fail, but you need like a 2. So if this is a point of pride for you, you would again be able to push open the door, kind of startling the couple of groups that are in here, catch the attention of a couple of servants to look your direction before you were led into the northern section here, a massive Hermaean Museum. The walls of this fully adorned with paintings, framed scrolls, and bits of parchment, numerous glass display cases throughout the chamber holding all manner of different kinds of items. It is probably like exactly what you expect it to be, really, other than it is more intricate and more detailed than you had perhaps imagined. The history goes back much further than the 100 years that Promise has been around, detailing more of Menkare's past and more of interest. But it is, again, a huge museum. There is a ton in here to tell. Is there anything in particular that you're looking after or for, or do you have the contract of citizenship?
He mentioned that Menkare's ideals are somewhere in here, and since the citizens are bound to uphold his ideals, I would like to know exactly what that fine print is. I'm not going to say that to Grigorovic, but
one of the main things, and actually will be in front of you in a large sculpture on a gold plaque, the first thing before you as you walk into this would be the Glorious Endeavor across the top. The Glorious Endeavor would detail the 12 guises of Erodin, their ideal purpose in a perfect world on the top half, the bottom half being almost kind of a mission statement from Menkare, from the Council of from the people of Promise about what the city is for. It would be much that you have heard. There would be nothing, perfect humanity, a perfect situation for everyone to achieve their true idealization, to innovate, to develop for the betterment of humanity throughout Galarian and the stars beyond.
I'm looking through the eyes right now.
As you look through the eyes, so you can see through the same eyes that he dropped?
I can see through any of them. I know.
Oh, yeah, because it's your spell. You can see everything.
Yeah, I see everything. I know when they split. I don't know who has them, but
you'd be able to tell because the guard who's standing there, as soon as you gain the ability to start seeing through his eyes. About this point, through that guard's eyes, you would again see a rotation come out. You would actually see he turns and sees guards come out of the visitor's chamber that you had just passed through in the museum. They must have come in from another direction just behind you. And as they come out, the one with the eyes and his partner that are on duty would come together, walk forward, and turn right into the southwestern corner, where they would immediately walk down the wall and enter a door kind of analogous to yours on the large diagonal of the western side that leads into a huge segmented chamber of small little reading areas. You would see him walk in there and then begin to sort of patrol around that room. I don't think there's anyone else that currently gives you anything of great value, because the other one you can see is Grigorovic, who sees you guys because he's right there.
Yeah. And if he happens to touch anyone, there's no choice, it just
Right, it
spreads.
spreads.
Yep. Up to 31 times.
Many eyeballs.
You get
Does-
31 eyeballs.
Does the monument that I'm looking at say anything explicitly about people having the freedom to pursue their passions? How would that be
not.
worded?
I would
Does
have
not.
no mention of that.
So, people achieving their potential and the betterment of humanity, but not pursuit of their passions.
That would be the mission statement, yes.
Okay.
And Grigorovic would kind of nod. It is here the goal that all of us strive to, more or less. We work to achieve our potential. Don't know if there is such thing as a perfect form beyond Menkari himself, but as close as man can get to it.
Yeah.
I'll,
Interesting.
I think I need some air. Excuse me.
I'm
Step
sorry.
back. I'm just gonna step out into the end of the room, like.
Into the visitor's chamber.
Yeah, just step right out the door, out of the museum, and just back into that area.
And Grigorovic would come towards the door after you. I'm sorry, Mr. Rasheen. If you would remain with the rest of your group, at least in the same general chamber, there's plenty of space in the museum here.
Here, I'll open the door so you can see me.
Fair enough. Those huge double doors open. Very well.
And she's just gonna lean and quietly seethe and just calm down a bit.
And as you lean against the wall and quietly see, a woman quickly comes up to you. Can I get anything for you? Refreshments or drinks? A book from
That'd
the
be
library.
lovely, actually. A book from the library, you said.
Anything that suits your interest?
Just a moment, actually. Raz, dear, you said that, tap his shoulder. You said that you were looking, you're interested in that library there. Let me see if I can go ahead and, dear, he's looking for, maybe a book about his size, perhaps. Maybe, I don't know, maybe go around a bit and see if you can find something. Just kind of pat her on the shoulder.
Just something of physical size?
He's very small. His hands are very small. He falls over if he holds large things.
And I pull out my big book, and then I just fall over with it.
No,
Don't bring him a large one. He gets attached to them.
but no concern for, well, subjects or interest or just anything small enough?
If you have any pages that are particularly durable, a durable book would be good. Stone tablets would be perfect, actually.
I'll see what I can do.
And I'll have a whiskey sour, thank you.
Oh my gosh. She would hurry off, passing by another one of the free servants on the shoulder and whispering something to him, and she'd point back to you, and he'd look and nod and raise a hand, and then head off towards what looks to be a small stocked bar along the western wall, as she headed back out of the main area. Around this time, Raz, you would see the guards emerge, having walked through the western door in this sitting area, going into a small adjoining hallway. Every single one of these doors is the same, by the way. And through the smaller human-sized doors for people, into a small adjoining hallway, and straight across into another room, which looks like it's storage of some kind. The room is a maze of shelves and containers, and they head in and simply seem to be taking a brief look around. The woman is on her way to the western side. She arrives relatively shortly, going into the same door the guards had entered, passing through that like trapezoidal reading room on the edge, but heading straight through to the back door, into another hallway behind it, where she takes a quick left turn and heads straight through into a room that encompasses the entire foot of the southwestern tower. That room is an enormous library with hundreds of books on a dizzying number of subjects spread all throughout shelves in the area. There will be one final door leading into the tower, much smaller. This one is not the same as the other doors. There is a huge, like 20, 40 foot open kind of passageway that cuts in like a nook away from the library with a smaller arched wooden door behind it. And as the woman goes to the library looking for something, you would see another 2 guards simply standing on either side of that door.
For this being a museum, you think that there would be more curiosities and curios?
A museum of history, as it is, of Minkare's past and the cities and our peoples. On the far side here, on the southeast, there is a section of our mini innovations. Have you heard of the repeating crossbow?
Multiple times.
Well, there's more than just that. There are a great number of fine fashions, useful cloths. I believe we spoke briefly of the dust-proof scarves that we had given out to the people of Katapesh that had taken a great hold throughout there in Assyria. There are a great number of various tools, materials, star metal among them, as well as, and he kind of points up, he would have been with you for buying your Apex items, to Raz's circlet and Roshin's belt. Of course, these items epitomize the very paragons of humanity.
Do you have a history of where these metals were obtained?
This star metal has come in from a great number of places. I believe much of it was actually recovered from the ruins of Aslant, now deep beneath the waves. Not terribly far from the Isle of Hermea, I suppose, but I would not know the specifics of how exactly it was returned.
Interesting. Do you actually have tours to such ruins?
To the ruins of Aslant? We don't, I'm afraid. I don't know if such a thing is even possible, but through magic, I suppose anything can be accomplished. The Aslanti Empire has been lost deep beneath the waves for millennia. This will be hundreds, if not thousands of feet beneath the ocean surface.
Imagine the kind of notoriety one could garner by suggesting such an innovation in a city full of it.
There is a friend of mine, actually, who works in the Thieves District. He has been working on a small device. It is a little mechanical thing, not much larger than the palm of your hand, with an outlet on one side and a sort of metal grilling on the other. It doesn't work entirely properly yet, but he's working on a mechanism within that actually filters out water into breathable air. Apparently, alchemically, there is air within the water, just not something our human lungs can process. His little device could fix that.
I don't know why you couldn't just rig. I open my bag and I ferret through my little rat pack. You couldn't just rig one of these.
Those are certainly useful, but magical and fragile. Glass does not stand up well to the stresses of the ocean floor, or so I hear.
I mean, you could probably rig up one that isn't in glass too.
I'm sure you could.
What is Raz holding?
He is holding. Sorry,
Good question.
that's a good question. He is holding a glass, just basically a glass jar with a cork stopper on top, and he pops it up, and you hear a little whoosh of air when he pops it up. Breathe into it.
I breathe into it.
It's just clean air. It is a decanter of air, or not a decanter of air.
I think it's literally just bottled air.
Bottled air. The bottle of endless air.
It's also quite dependent on whatever magic and enchantments that it requires, and if it was Aslant in particular that you were interested in visiting, the ley energies down there are apparently so chaotic as to be near impossible to unravel. It would be risky to trust an enchantment on an item, especially one that you were not able to weave yourself with your very life.
Now I'm fascinated by the idea. Roshin, are you done brooding? I actually want to read up on this.
Well, if you want to read up on something, it might be in the library. If you want to just kind of stare at little gizmos, then you're in the right place.
At this point, the woman, you would see her having fetched a small little pocket guide to the cuisine of Cheliax that she would have been bringing out, and she would be coming through the door back out towards you. She would pass the pair of guards who have left the storage room and are now headed into that grand library and are patrolling as well.
Is it like a little board book, like that you give to like a 2-year-old? So like it's made out of like cardboard pages,
Like a little pop-up.
like
book.
the ones that can't be bent.
It's
Hard
I suppose
to
small
bend
because
them.
Cheliax only has so much history. It is a traditional book, though. She seems to have gotten what she could. Perhaps thinking that was a joke, maybe.
I'm gonna turn to Esbis and be like, can you even die underwater?
Yes.
Okay.
It's quite awful, actually.
This mechanism, if Johansa can perfect the thing, would be actually of great use to many of those in the Fisher District. There are a wide variety of creatures upon the depths of the ocean, even along the sides of the mountain whose tip is Hermea, that they're very interested in experimenting with, but they're difficult to gather, at least beyond a certain depth. It can't be done easily or safely, at least not consistently, and for a few it's worth the risk.
I want to go to the library.
Of course.
This is absolutely boring.
Well,
Not to dismar your fascinating talking of an alchemical device to filter
excuse
air
me,
out of
Miss
water.
Resme, or Miss Roisin, and they would hand a
Oh, spectacular.
whiskey sour
Thank
to you on a little tray here.
Oh, it's actually really quite good.
Yes.
Fishery District is the best place.
The guy would head back.
Yeah.
Well, I do apologize, but if we would all like to travel to the library, that can very well be arranged. It is publicly available, of course. But I believe, at that point you see the woman come back in through the open door, still Roshin's holding the woman coming back with a little book. And I suppose there was little use in fetching that. We could travel together.
Thank you.
And she would hand you this such thing. Of course. If there's anything else any of the rest of you need, here, please, make yourselves comfortable. We're here to aid you.
Thank you.
Very kind.
Can Miss Rasheen bring her drink
Did you want
with
to
her?
I believe none of us are children.
Oh,
We can
not to worry.
trust you to protect.
Thank you, dear.
I suppose it is no longer a concern.
Quite.
Very well. Let us travel. And they would walk out across through the same path you'd seen, move, and now all of you being able to see this section of reading rooms in this first area and the library beyond it. You would arrive in the library, all of you seeing the pair of guards at the door, as well as the other pair of guards that are just finishing up looking through and would pass through the door the other direction right after you entered. All of this, of course, is free to your perusal. This is one of the grandest libraries that you'll be able to find within all of Promise, with a wide range of topics of near anything you could hope to research, to learn, or simply imaginations you would wish to read from storied authors throughout Avestan, throughout Arcadia, throughout Tianja, and Garund as well. I only ask that you remain away from the door beyond. Guarded, of course, you can see that is Minkare's personal archives. Those are unfortunately off limits to the public. I could not take you in there even if I wished. That is under the purview of the Citadel Guard.
Understood.
Very well.
Now it is here that it occurs to you that, well, with Grigorovic, the two guards at the door notwithstanding, with Grigorovic with you, it's going to be all but impossible to slip in here without any kind of suspicion. This is a problem before you that's going to need to be solved. While the library is currently peaceful, the four of you are actually the only people that are in at the moment, aside from the pair of guards at the archive door and Grigorovic. This quiet stillness is kind of covering a very tense problem that the group of you have.
It's such a shame that Resme decided to stay in the beggar's quarters and did not accompany us today.
And it is here that we will end our session. Here we will end our adventures for the day before a door that could lead to a near unknowable amount of answers. What information we could find in Minkare's personal archives could tell us a huge amount of things, and beyond that, there may be a lot more than just information in there.
And Espis is going to reach out and put a hand on Gorvik's shoulder and clutching his wound a moment. Just,
You feeling well, Espis?
I will be fine in but a moment, but make sure that the same kindness is treated to a very good friend of mine. And Espis
Before he
takes it.
disappears, I'll be like, hey, any chance you can come back like 50 feet away.
He's in the archive.
I don't make these rules. And Estes will tip backward with his masks securely attached to his face, and there's a spectral set of trapdoors that just open underneath him, and his body just falls through like nothing happens, and it clicks shut, and then his body disappears, as do the doors, as though they were never there.
And Grigorovic, who was startled by this, but a little less startled after the thing that happened yesterday, kind of steps back from this. The two Citadel guards both immediately draw their swords and take a bit of a stance on either side of the door, shields in front of them. They kind of both, in a single motion, draw their swords, step together, and sort of put their shields, forming a bit of a wall in front of the archive gate here. Neither of them says a word. Grigorovic quickly notices, he puts out a hand. It is okay. They have a situation.
Yeah.
There. We will end our session for the day. We'll be back next week, next Friday, through a door to answers, through a door to pieces of the Orb of Gold Dragonkind, to perhaps the Orb of Gold Dragonkind. Maybe even more. Promise has definitely got some stuff.
Yes,
Got some going on behind the scenes somewhere. And
I'm gonna keep making this joke every single week.
this might be the first real view we get into it. So, next Friday, 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific, you're going to want to be here if you want to see what happens behind and below the beautiful streets of this utopian city. Thank you for being here, everybody. Thank you for hanging out and supporting the show. Enjoy your weekends. Good night, friends.